Okay. Okay. Well, Rashta came on, so that's why I was recording. She asked me to. A good session with Rashta. All right, we live, Beena. We live. We live.
Okay, okay. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so we don't have grain yet, but hello and welcome everyone. We are live again, and we are in open. So this is welcome to our open and welcome grain also. Hello. Before coming, today's thought is before coming here on live, my friend Shanta, she called me, and somehow it was organically it was happening like that she was asking me, she used to share, and she shares a lot about her professional life and personal life, and
Mm.
so more was happening in her personal and professional life. So mostly our calls were for last few months, it was more focused on her, and she's about to get married in September or October this year. So this was, and then she was, but today she said, okay, Beena, I'm off early from office and come home, and just call me. And I said, okay. So I called her. I was expecting it to be like a small chit chat thing, but she says, no, I want to talk. So I said, yes. I assumed that it is going to be that she might having some problem or something. So she's asking, but she says, nee, I want to talk about you. And I said,
Ah, ah,
and I said, what? And she
ah.
says, what are your future plans? What are you doing? What are you planning for your life? And I
Wow.
said,
Wow.
I'm doing.
Ah.
And I said, okay, I'm doing what is appropriate, and I'm doing what is whatever I have right now in my life. I'm
Oh,
doing it and I'm enjoying it. She says,
yes.
yes, but
Yes.
I want you to focus on. She used these precise words, and she says, I want you to focus on yourself and for your future. And I said, okay,
But
I
but
understand
but
your
but
point.
but I say, isn't that what you do every single day? Anyway, sorry, carry on,
Yes,
carry on.
yes, yes. So her intent was different.
Yeah, yeah.
And she says, you have to be, because it's now according to my culture, of course it's late, Veena, but
Yeah.
she's not into that mindset. So she says, no, it's not about being late or early. This is the right time. That's it.
Yeah.
So just be appropriate and focus on things. And I said, okay. And then during that, she was suggesting me few changes, very subtle changes in my life. So the first thing she says that Veena, start responding to your friends, start connecting them with them. And I said, I'm always here for them. She says, no, you don't need to be here for them. You just need to be yourself. And whenever you have time, you can just send some morning messages to your friends. And if they respond, whenever they will respond, you can continue. You don't need to spend hours of just listening to them or sharing and all these things. No, just hello, hi, and that's it. And I said, okay, I will do that, because she's a very dear friend.
Mm.
So I said, okay, I will do that without uh, making any adjustments, without saying anything from my side. That okay, yes, I'm a good communicator. At least I assume that okay, now I'm getting there. So, but I just said, okay, yes, I will do. And she says, you are going to give me report also. And I said, okay, I will do that too. I was just trusting her intent. Her intent,
Wonderful. Nobelia
goodness.
living in action, trusting our intent. Nobelia living in action.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
It
because
doesn't
this
make
is
any
our greater
difference.
theme, right? Is
Yes.
Nobelia living from now, well, it's just in general, it's our overall theme, but specifically now because of the podcast coming, because that's what I'm going to be sharing. So I'm connecting it, right? This is
Yes.
core to Nobelia living is
Exactly.
trusting the
Exactly.
intent.
Yes, I know that I'm not going to take much time. I'm not
Right,
going
go,
to
go.
take,
No worries, no
yes, I'm
worries,
not going to take much time with that. I'm
no
just
worries.
sharing
No, no,
that
no, keep going. It's wonderful.
that I just trust her.
Hello, Norma. Sorry, it's supposed
I
to say
just
hello quickly
trust
to
her
Norma.
intent to goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Hello,
yes.
Norma.
And that was the realization also, that for Syl, like right now, actually it happens via attunement. He always have he interrupts everything, of course, when Norma is here. That okay, yes, okay, Norma is saying something, Norma is saying hello, Norma is there, and Norma sending
Yeah.
messages. This about giving appropriate, of course, or due respect to your friends. It is about your priorities in life, and it is about the
Yeah.
having trust that okay, whatever they are sharing, at least if nothing is there, I'm saying it for my friend Shant also, if nothing is there, the intent for goodness is there. And this is what Nobelia-Living is. And also that it is not just always doing things in a different way. Like okay, like the perception of Syl is that he's always focused on things which are like about learning and growing. He is, but he never left anything like his friends. No, never. They
Never.
are always on priority. They are always on
Exactly.
priority.
Exactly.
And of course his own time, his own things. They are
Yeah.
always on priority. This
Yeah.
is what appropriateness is. And
Exactly.
even I am the one who almost like okay, I'm lucky in the sense that okay, I get this opportunity to see a lot of things right there in application, in practice, in exercise, but still I was missing this. And this awareness came from a different way, from a different person. And she says that okay, this is you need to do in your life. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm doing it. It was not like that okay, I was not doing it, I'm doing
Yeah.
this. But the way she was saying, that is something different, and that opens up a new door of awareness.
Yeah.
So awareness is always there, and as Syl was saying that this is what Nobelia-Living is all about. This is
Exactly.
what we are sharing.
Exactly.
No matter who and no matter what they are saying, if my
Exactly.
intent is to see and perceive the goodness, I will perceive goodness. I will
Exactly.
get value, no matter what.
Exactly.
Coming back to the same point again, like a central column, this is what
Yeah.
Nobelia Living. This is the foundation. This is the center column of Nobelia Living. First, just
Yes.
instead of looking outside for reason, for excuses, for something to blame on, just start working, and of course start loving yourself and
Yeah.
be appropriate with yourself, be
Yeah.
appropriate with other, of course, and start application, capital
Yeah.
A application, and everything, the whole universe is going to change for you. So that was my thought of the day. Thank you so much for giving me time, and now we can
Oh,
get back
this you
to
can
the
take
reading.
all the time you like, Beena. These sessions, these lives,
Yes,
these
oh yeah,
open,
I'll listen.
they are open.
Yes,
They are open. That's why it's such a wonderful term that Norma used, right? Hearing your
yes,
intent to
yes.
goodness. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that, what
Mm-hmm,
Norma says.
mm-hmm.
Hearing your intent to goodness, Beena. This is Nobelia living
Yes.
in action, Norma. This is Nobelia living in action. Specifically, what makes Nobelia living special is because, like Beena was saying, she trusted her friend's intent. In other words, she was deliberately making the effort to hear her friend's intent to goodness. We grow up in a culture where we don't get this opportunity. We're not taught to do this. We're taught to put down and pull down and do all sorts of horrible things in order to get ahead and compete and survive and all this nonsense, right? So we don't deliberately make that effort. But Nobelia living, we deliberately make the effort to hear, capital H, hear the intent to goodness and the intent to moreness in others, right? And this is why what you just said is so wonderful. This, Norma, what you just said, what you just did there, you heard her, the intent to goodness, Venus' intent to goodness, right? That is Nobelia living. That's Nobelia living in action. And let me just add on to that. I want to just put it in a slightly religious context, Nobelia living. Nobelia
Mm-hmm.
living is taking the teachings of Jesus and applying them, but going further with more specificness, more preciseness, more detail, right? Because that's long ago and the language was different and its translations, and we don't get everything that he shared, right? Now, not just Jesus, but Buddha, Krishna, doesn't matter, Allah, doesn't matter. Yes, Muhammad, doesn't matter, same thing. Yes, we're taking these teachings and we are looking to apply them, to apply them, to apply them, to actually live them, not just have them as ideals and hopes and ideas in us. No, to actually apply them. Yes, I mean, okay, this word, this term that I'm going to use, consideration, capital C consideration, or Nobelia consideration, Nobelia living consideration, right? That consideration that Beena showed to her friend, the consideration of hearing and listening and trusting that she has a good intent, that and understanding that of course she has, because she's got a deep intent to goodness. How can she not have a good intent, right? That's very sophisticated, it's very precise, it's very deliberate. But that is capital C consideration. That's Nobelia consideration. Tell me that Jesus or Buddha would not have this, or Krishna or whoever, Muhammad, doesn't matter, right? I don't want to speak for God or for Allah because I can't really, yes, or any other. Maybe Krishna can't,
Yes.
but the Bhagavad Gita goes into detail about Krishna and his life and sharing. So you get to understand more or less who Krishna is, right? That's why I can say it, or
Yes.
Buddha, right? But I'm saying this capital C consideration, is this not something that they would have? It's maybe not specifically mentioned in the scriptures as consideration, but this is the sophistication of the new nobility and their dictionary of power, that they bring such thoughts into it as capital C consideration, nobelia consideration, because it's different to regular consideration, right? Because it's going so much further. That consideration that you showed your friend is profound. It is profound. It changes everything, right? You were receptive to what she said, etc., etc., etc. It's a huge, huge consideration, right? It's a very big deal. But when we think of this, right, and we understand this, and we look at this Nobelia living in the context of, you could call it Jesus living, Buddha living,
Mhm.
Krishna living, right, Muhammad living, right? Whoever you want to use as an example here. Yes, that's what it's about. Yes, it's very, very, very powerful. Very, very powerful when you think of it in that context. Yes. And there's no reason not to, except that I'm saying it's just that, when we look at old things, we have to understand that the scriptures are from long ago, and like in the time of Jesus. I mean, we have a few interactions relatively over the course of many years. Of course, he said much, much, much more that was never recorded because there wasn't video and, audio recordings, and, wasn't even paper, wasn't even readily handable, right? I mean, it wasn't handy. You couldn't just go and buy paper as an ordinary person. Paper was ridiculously expensive and very precious, and very few had it. Yes. So we take a lot of things for granted, right? We take a lot of things for granted. That was so what I'm trying to say is that much is lost that we don't know about, right? It's not like, on Nobelia, this is new stuff. Some of it might be, but we don't know if it was then back in that time also. It may be lost. Plus, the person writing it down may have been like, well, I don't understand this, so they don't write it down because it didn't make any sense to them. And you know how people are when it doesn't make sense, they think it's nonsense. Yes, no sense, nonsense. Yeah, just just because you can't see sense to it doesn't mean it is nonsense, right? Doesn't make sense to you. So a lot of things didn't get written down because the people that did the writing down didn't get it. They didn't. It was too deep for them, too sophisticated, too complex, whatever. Right? They just didn't understand it. It was new. It was different. Went against the conventionality. People don't hear the unconventional. Literally, they don't hear it. New, different. They don't hear it. So we have to look at our things in the past, scriptures in this. And also the other problem with scriptures is that because of religion, not the underlying spirituality, the underlying teachings, but religion. I mean, look at Buddhism. Buddha never taught praying. This is completely against this whole logic of what he taught, right? But yet, Buddhist as the religion is completely different to what Buddhism taught about, right? Same thing with Christianities. A lot of it goes against what Christ taught, right? I mean, this whole superiority and having a crusade. Jesus would have been horrified, absolutely horrified at the idea of a crusade. This would be the worst possible thing imaginable to Jesus. How is this in any way being compassionate towards your fellow human being, which he so powerfully stood for? No, no, this is about superiority, right? It's very, very anti Christianity. Big difference between Christianity and Christianity, right? Two different things, yes? And there's Buddhaness, Buddhaanity. Buddhism, Buddhism is different to Buddhism. Buddhism, right? Is he taught very specific things. Be a Buddha. Don't pray to anything. Don't worship anything. None of this, right? It's about you and you alone. Anyway, my point is that there's a very big difference here, and the religions have taken those teachings and they've locked them in to say this is it, this is all there is, and this is what you got to do. This is what you because they want power. It's BMNs, people who want power and narcissists, all the stuff that lock it in and distort it, unfortunately. But it's also a gift because in that distortion of what went, we need to untangle it and extract the value, which means we decide for ourselves, which means we raise our awareness, enhance our awareness, develop our awareness. When you make choice and awareness are pretty much synonymous. Capital C, choice and awareness, synonymous. So this is all, when you look at it in context, we start to see things differently. But I want to make this point again, that Nobelia living is the application with sophistication, with preciseness, with deliberateness, and with the actuality of practical implementation. Practical implementation. Yes? Jesus said, turn the other cheek. A lot of Christians and Christians struggle with that because it's not practical. Yes? They don't understand this. Yes? So many things are missing from those teachings. We just have to be aware of this, right? When we think them through, we can fill in the gaps, yes, and we can apply that. Nobelia living is about the practical implementation of the underlying intent of those teachings. The underlying intent. If you learn to hear the intent, what is the difference between the intent of Jesus and Buddha and Krishna and Muhammad? What's the difference? What's the difference? No difference, right? You want to take this further and say, okay, Brahma or Krishna or Allah or God or whoever your fairy queen, whoever your deity is, think of their intents as best you can understand it, right? Not even there of it, right? When you take Allah as an energy, it's not doesn't have a personal pronoun, it's an energy. So Allah is technically an it, yes? Allah, but
Yes.
it's not called an it, but technically is right. So when you
Yes.
think of this,
Yes.
when you think of the universe, right? Allah, universe, same thing. When you think of what is the universe's intent, God's intent, Brahma's intent, Buddha's, all of them have the same intent. Doesn't make a difference. That's all the same thing. It's an intent to goodness plus an intent to moreness. That's all the same. See the power of
Yes.
conceptuality. Power of conceptuality. This is what makes Nobelia living so special. Why? Because it is founded on something real, concrete, practical, which is the dictionary of power. It's what underlies it all. The dictionary of power is the core of Way of Impeccability. It's the core of the Moreness Project, right? That dictionary of power is what gives you the power to understand, comprehend, be aware, and discern and apply. You've got something to use. Yes. Like, for instance, capital C consideration, Nobelia consideration. When we look at Jesus, I'll speak from this point of view because I know Christian theology very well. And same with Buddhism. I know it fairly well. Not as well as Christianity, but I know it well enough, right? When you look at the two of them, they had incredible nobelia consideration, the consideration that comes out of compassion. This comes out of awareness, discernment, and understanding applied. They had incredible capital C consideration, incredible nobelia consideration. Right? So when we understand nobelia living as the application of that which we hold dear, that which is of that deep spirit importance to us, right? Which is now religious importance, right? It touches our spirit, yes, which is where you have this concept of spirit coming along, right? It is the part of the divine that's in us, yes. You've got capital S spirit, which you could say is the moreness out there. It's not exactly the deity. It is that part of the deity that we can access, yeah. So, right. So spirit is in us. So it's its own thing, really, separate to the deity. But still, not to get too complex into stuff. The point I want to make is that this, when we look at Nobelia living through this lens of understanding from a religious context, it doesn't contradict anything to do with your religion. As a matter of fact, it enhances it. Many may not be aware of this. If you've listened to these lives regularly, And unless it's come up, if you missed those lives or those opens where Beena talked about her religious beliefs or her practice, you'll never guess from the typical everyday conversation that Beena is a very devout Muslim, very devout, yes, devout practicing Muslim. She does this every single day, very devout, very, right, in a very profoundly magical way, right? But again, the point I want to make is Nobelia-Living is the implementation of what you hold dear, what is precious to you, and mostly for good people, what they hold precious, what is dear to them, is goodness in all of its glorious, magical, wonderful variety. Yes? That is what binds us all, is that intent to goodness. When we focus on the core issues, the details doesn't matter. Does it matter if your intent to goodness is expressed as a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Christian or a I don't know, whatever, a fairy queen follower? Does it matter, right?
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And therefore, it enhances what you are. It enhances what you believe. It doesn't replace it or try to supplant it or contradict it. No, no. Nobelia-Living enhances your moreness, your goodness, your importance, what's important to you. Yes, in other words, your beliefs also. Assuming that those beliefs aren't square circle beliefs, self contradictory beliefs, flawed beliefs, because that happens, right? Because Nobelia-Living, this is a massive point. I've said many things that Nobelia-Living are called to, like the Dictionary of Power, right? But all of these,
Yes.
every single thing is always taken for granted, or at least what is totally, totally intrinsic to Nobelia-Living is honesty and self-honesty. This is
Yes.
Nobelia-Living is about a profoundly, profoundly honest community. Because you are focused on learning and growth and moreness, and it's a different paradigm, the honesty is never, ever, ever a detriment. Never. If I know my intent to goodness is what makes me and who I am, how can I not be honest about that? If I know this is you, where is honesty or dishonesty ever going to be required? Where is it going to be a negative? Where's, or at least, right, honesty, where's honesty ever going to be a negative? Where is dishonesty ever going to be a positive? Never, never, ever, ever. Because you're going to be hiding, suppressing, and disguising goodness. No, be honest. Yes, be honest. I don't know anything. Why is this an issue to acknowledge our ignorance? Only comes from narcissists. They're the ones who want to hide the fact that they're ignorant. Why? Because if they acknowledge it, then they have to acknowledge that all of their narcissism, all of that they're putting out there is a complete lie. And then they collapse like a bubble. They pop and there's nothing, right? So they have incentive to lie. But if you're honest, any narcissist who's honest is going to say, I'm hollow. Yeah. But they are so hung up on that you cannot be hollow, you cannot have weakness, you can't. It's a madness. It's a madness. Narcissism is a madness. When we understand that, then it all makes sense, right? Then we can say, I don't want to be caught up in this madness. I'm just going to be honest. And yes, I know nothing. So what? Somebody was talking about earlier today. They were feeling ashamed at having been so ignorant and getting themselves in their youth and got involved in relationships and was a terrible relationship and they should have known better and they were stupid and ignorant and all this and they felt ashamed at their ignorance. Yes, at back then. I said, man, were you ashamed? Are you ashamed? And do you feel guilty? And are you ashamed at having been a baby at one point? Do you, Beena? Do you feel ashamed at being a baby?
Never.
Well, I say, but hang on a second, wait a second. How are you not ashamed at being a baby? For heaven's sake, you pooped in your pants every day. You vomited on people, and you
Oh,
just
yes.
and you complained in the worst possible way, right? I mean, you didn't just complain, say,
Yes.
well, you complained in an
Exactly.
ugly, unpleasant way. How are you not ashamed of this horrible behavior?
Yes.
And you were ignorant, stupid, see,
Yes.
see. This whole idea of being ashamed at ignorance is absolutely ridiculous, right? Furthermore, I want to make one more point. We're going to read some stories
Mhm.
about about honesty. Yes, what was that quote, Beena? I want to read that quote exactly. I have it in my quote file. How can we be egotistical when we are honest? Capital H, honest.
Yes,
How can we be egotistical when we are honest? Now, capital H, honesty obviously includes self-honesty. Yes, because
exactly.
it's nobelia honesty. This is being honest about not just things in general, but about self, right? Because I know honest people aren't self-honest. But how can we be egotistical when we have nobelia honesty? It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible. With honesty, true honesty, we cannot be egotistical because I'm honest about being ignorant. It's only my ego that says, oh, I can't admit that I'm ignorant. Well, ego, you're just stupid. Sorry. Now, another wonderful quote that I love. Ego is a tool in both the sarcastic way of mentioning this, right? As in silly,
Yes.
tool as in a silly person, silly, idiotic person. And also, it is a tool to use. Use your ego. Subvert ego. Take ego and leverage it and say, ego, if you really want to be special, then learn to be noble. Oh my God, that's the best ever. Right? And learn to not have an ego. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I'm going to not have an ego. I'm going to be the one most special thing to not have an ego. Ego is just, it's like a program. It has no mind of its own. So you need to construct it, instruct it to do what you want it to do. Use it positively. Ego is a great motivator. Yes, use your ego to motivate yourself, but don't be trapped by ego. Don't let ego rule you. You must rule ego. Ego is a tool. It's like having the hammer be in charge of you. This is ridiculous, right? The hammer just wants to bang at everything. Banger likes banging, but it has no discernment. It has no judgment of what it is appropriate to bang on, right? It just wants to bang. Yes. So if you have the hammer, it's like banging around on everything. It's like that's your ego. See, you need to direct it and make it bang on things appropriately. Yes, hammer on things appropriately. Ego is just like that hammer, but if you don't control the hammer, right? Think of the hammer just like a spirit, like a hammer spirit now uncontrolled. Like like in some of the movies, like you see where wizardry or stuff is involved or magic, right? And you see these things come alive and they take on their own spirit and form. And they're just uncontrolled, right? Because that's the point of it. You have to control these things. If you use them appropriately, not let them use you. Yes. So, but honesty, and you really are honest, you can't have an ego. It's just idiotic. And because what is ego but saying I'm more than I actually am? Yes. Likewise, ego can go the other way and say, I'm less than I am. Why are you saying I'm less than you are? Well, because this makes me special. Look how modest I am. Yeah. Look how humble I am. Yeah. BS. See, be honest. Just be accurate about yourself. That's it. Honesty is accuracy. If you're honest, that's not an issue. All of the stuff's only an issue if there's ego. Nobelia-Living is founded on profound, profound honesty. Nobelia honesty, it is a special, special, magical thing. All right. Make sense? Yes? Make sense? Beena,
Yes.
Norma? I'm keen to hear
Yes.
what you say
Yes.
on this, Norma.
Yes.
Love your comments, Norma. Always. Your comments are truly a blessing. They are a blessing. They are a blessing and a joy. And your questions too. 1 second. Ah, dang it. When I click to see the comments, yeah, yeah. I'm not sure what you think. You said disagree. Jesus not to be dismayed. I don't know what you're referring to. Uh, he would turn it into love. Yes, Norma. But here's the thing with love, right? It has to be aware love. Otherwise, it causes problems. Yes. So this is very key. So yes, when we talk about love, we need to understand that it needs to go with awareness. Of course, he would turn it into love, and I'm not saying anything that is contradictory to Jesus. So I'm not sure what you mean, Jay, not to be dismayed. I'm not understanding that. Maybe elaborate a little bit on that, please. They and us all part of the same divine energy. Exactly. When we honest, when we are truly honest about ourselves and we look at anybody, we could say, look, if my life circumstances had been different, I could easily be that person. If I'd made those choices in my ignorance, I made a bad choice and I could end up there, right? It's like you're traveling along a road with multiple paths that lead off of it. And you don't know which way to go, right? You're walking through the jungle. There's no clear straight path. It's all little squiggly paths, right? Or like a maze. You could easily make the wrong choice and end up in a dead end somewhere. Well, that's people that don't turn out so good, right? They end in dead ends of personal development. Now, does it mean they can't backtrack and then get back on path? Yes, and get out of the maze? Yes, it does. But when we understand that that could have been us, then we realize that everybody is us. We are anyone, right? Anyone can be us. We can be anyone, right? Very important. Very, very important. So I'm not sure what you mean with this disagree, Jay, not to be dismayed, right? I mean, nothing in what I said is negative towards Jay. Yeah, Jesus. A lot of aggro comes from different translations. Exactly. But this is the point of Nobelia-Living. It is all about understanding the power of seeing the overview perspective, looking at the underlying abstract conceptuality. That's why the dictionary of power is so potent, because it's a dictionary of conceptions, not terms, not ideas, not words, conceptions. Conceptions are all limited, and you're looking at what is common. When you abstract something, you are taking what is common between those things. Yes, the intent to goodness, it is common between all of these religions that I mentioned, right? Right? All of them have an underlying intent to goodness. That's the point of a religion, right? A point of a deity.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, translations cause a lot of problems because people getting stuck in the details because they don't think in the abstract. So now they're starting to argue between yes, but this is this. It doesn't matter when the intent is the same. If you hearing a preaching and the preaching or the teaching is about it being good, does it matter where it comes from? Totally irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. Doesn't matter. No matter who said it. This is ego stuff. This fighting over translations and this is better than that. That's all the problems that come from this comparative mindset, right? And hierarchical, saying this the superiority paradigm is obsessed with hierarchy. So when you've got two different translations, what do they have to do? Their mind is trained through this understanding of hierarchy that automatically you've got to put one above the other. You've got to put it in a hierarchy. It's ridiculous. It's like saying all the different colors and shades. It's like trying to rank them into hierarchy. It's an absurd idea. Same thing with nature. What is the best plant? Idiotic, 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 idiotic. Absolutely idiotic idea. Yes. I mean, look behind me. How do you start saying this one is better than that one? It's just incredible foolishness. And of course, when you do this, the moment you say this is the best, then everything else by comparison is less. You start to devalue everything, right? And in a hierarchy, if you're not the best, if you anything other than the best, then you don't count, right? I mean, there's even this gets said, second, there's no second, second sucks. Ugh, if I'm excellent and you're just slightly more excellent than me, I'm still excellent. What does it matter? Yeah. I looked at this when I was watching the Olympics and specifically with Michael Phelps, yes, that he won some of his gold medals by hundredths of a second. Hundredths of a second. What is the difference between him and the guy who came second? It's our minds, our eye, when you look at it visually, it looks like they touch at the same time, right? So we can't even perceive the difference. It's so tiny, so minute. So how is the guy who came second not pretty much the same as him? In percentage terms, he is 99.9999999% the same. But now somehow he means nothing. We don't even know who came second. He's useless. He's hopeless. He's terrible. It's so pathetic. It's so ridiculous. They were both excellent. They were both incredibly excellent. See, this whole obsession with best and winners just ridiculous. So I'm keen to know what you meant, Norma, so I can elaborate and go into it a little bit more. I mean, I'm trying to bring Jesus and Buddha and Krishna and all of these wonderful characters or people or entities or beings from the past into our lives so that we can really access that moreness without limitation and that we can go further as well, right? And not be bound by the limitations of this limited view that we have of the past. All the scriptures are a very, very, very limited view. Unfortunately, they've been elevated to this holiness and wonderfulness, and by implication, it's well, everything else is of no good. Yeah, come on, come on, come on. You don't have the whole picture, but you want to make out as if this is the whole picture. And why do the religions do this? Power. If I've got the complete picture, then you can't go anywhere else and stay with us. And this is the just it's just all manipulation for power reasons. It's really sad, right? But when we look past that, we see the moreness and we get into this moreness. And this is Nobelia living. Yes? Make sense, Beena? Make sense, Norma? See, I love your comments, Norma, and your questions. Yeah, just beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. All right. So keep an eye on that chat there, Beena. I'm updating the live chat to see if there are more messages. I have to refresh the window, and when I refresh the window, then it puts the voice loud again, and then I have to
Okay.
put it off, right? So that's just how
Okay.
that works. Yeah, yeah. That's why you hear it sometimes. But what we're going
Yes.
to be doing next now, I'll show you. I'll show you. Let me just click on this, turn it off. There we go. Okay. Grin. Been there, have the t-shirt. You always make me laugh, Norma. Yeah, you're just marvelous. Yeah, that's very funny, Norma. Been there, have the t-shirt. Yes, yes, yes. Very cool, very cool. All right. What I'm going to be doing is sharing a project that I am busy with right now. And you'll see in a moment what it is. We'll go back here and we'll screen share. I am about to publish 2 books. Now, I can make it one, but it will be very long as one book, and it's 2 books. So it is called Ask Biella, Questions Answered, Book 1. Okay? Um, Actually, I think I want to do it like this. If it's not going to fit on one line, then I must put it that way, right? Perspectives on positive living in life. Wow, it's raining hard. It's raining hard that I don't know. Can you hear the rain, Beena?
No.
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 Oh, it's actually so loud. It's making a noise in my ear and it's causing me to talk loudly because I can't hear myself. So anyway, so I put the headset on here now. No, I can't. I'm not hearing through the headset. I'm hearing you through the speakers. But this dampens the noise, right? So I have to listen to myself differently. Anyway, so this is Ask Biella and perspectives on positive living and life. And let's see the foreword. Biella Noble is an alter ego, an avatar, an amalgam, and the main character of the Biella series. And Biella represents much sensibility, goodness, awareness, discernment, understanding, compassion, and more. She is to some extent an ideal we might aspire to. Ask Biella started as a featured column in the Gateway Gazette newspaper and continued as a prominent part of Nobelia.org self-discovery project in the Ask Biella category of our content, to which you can subscribe here at Nobelia.org. All right, so just to give a little introduction to, now we already know Biella from the story, right? But like Norma, you might not have known that in this format of Ask Biella, that there were newspaper articles, right? And each chapter here, it was published in the newspaper. People asked questions, and then Biella responded to their questions. And the book is now about all of these responses, right? To Biella answering these questions. And you might say, yeah, but isn't Biella your character, isn't it you? No. Yes, she is. But at the same time, when I answered these questions, I answered as Biella, which is very different, right? Yes, there's a lot of me in it, obviously, but still, I'm writing from Biella's perspective, right? So it's me, but from a different perspective. But don't think of it as me, it's Biella, right? Like I said, Biella is an alter ego, an avatar, an amalgam, right? But also, Biella is to some extent an ideal we might aspire to. I'm being very delicate here and Nobelia-Diplomacy applied an ideal we can aspire to, and for me, an ideal I do aspire to, but might because she's about choice, right? Nobelia living, all about choice. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to skip a couple here, and I'm going to start here on number 5, right? And it's very important also to pay attention to the questions, right? And how they are asked. It gives us some insight into the questioner, right? Uh, So this is the section heading is the attention of ignoring. And the question, what are the positive thoughts on ignoring? You see what I meant when I was saying earlier, Beena, about the grammar?
Yes, yes.
Right. I mean, it's a peculiar grammar here, right? But it's not the grammar of a non-English speaking person, right? So we get to understand that this is something that somebody has a problem with. And they
Please
also,
share space.
yes, 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 yes. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, in this question, we get to hear the person, at least to some extent, we get an idea where they're at, right? Something that is important to them that they're struggling with. And typically, when people share things that they're struggling with, they're not paying attention to grammar. They're sharing what's in their heart, right? So, so this is ignoring is something that's really touching them, and they're probably being ignored, and they want to know how to deal with being ignored, correct? Right? Make sense? When we apply a bit of capital D discernment.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
this is our ongoing project with these opens, is to share our awareness, discernment, understanding, and how we apply that, right? Because the more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you get skilled at it. And it's incredible skills to have, right? I mean, it's almost like magic sometimes. You get to see things that would otherwise just be hidden, but they're not really, right? They're there for us to see and partake of. Very, very powerful stuff. Very, very powerful stuff. All right, let me just get all my screen sorted here so that we can have. Now, this is in Scrivener, by the way, and you see each one here, and I can take each chapter, and I can, if I don't want it to be number 5, I can drag it up to anywhere or down, and it will just be there, right? So I can take this whole chapter instead of copying and pasting. I can just drag it. I don't want to do it now because it will mess up my order, but I can just drag it and put it wherever I want. It's very, very powerful, very, very handy, very helpful. There are a lot of other features too, but just the main key one. All right, Beena, I want to make some more coffee. So will you read, please? Is it okay? Can you? Otherwise, I'll read.
Yes. Sorry,
Are
say
you
it
going to
again,
read?
please.
Are you going to read?
Just after few minutes. I'm just eating
Oh, I
while
see.
listening.
Okay. Okay. The attention of ignoring. And again, these headings, they are to give us an overview perspective, an understanding, a kind of a clue that ties the brain in a different way, right? And I pay a lot of attention to titles and headings. Yeah. And usually I like to make my titles and headings to be like seeds that if you water them a little bit with attention, they grow into more, right? It's very, very useful, very, very potent. Come, 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 come. Ah, oh, I want my friend. Uh, Sorry, I know this is taking out a little time. I'm very keen to connect to my friend Stephanie, which I know from a long time back, and she's in the story as well, and just a wonderful person, beautiful soul. And I like to share my beautiful soul friends with my other friends, right? And I'm feel almost 100% positive that you will love her, Beena, and you too, Norma, that you will love Stephanie. So please, Stephanie, come and join us. I mean, she's not hearing me; she's just seeing that there.
Okay.
This would be great. This would be great. And before I go any further, let me just, because I doubt if she's got the link shared, saved, right, Bina? I doubt that. So let me just send her.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Just be a
And
bit
and please
preemptive.
extend my request also. Please do
Yeah,
join us.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, she doesn't know you,
If you,
so I don't know if it will
but you
matter.
can just say my friends.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Bina. Thank you, Bina. Thank you, Bina. Okay, just enter and put the link there. All right, all right. Just good people. I love good people like you, Norma. See, I love you. Love good people. Yeah, very wonderful and magical and beautiful. All right, let's continue where we were at. Let me make this smaller so I don't have this infinite screen and move it across. And tell me when you finished eating, Beena.
Yes.
Okay, let's move this across a bit. There we go. And put that up. Now we said, all right, the intention of ignoring. What are the positive thoughts on ignoring? Dear questioner, ignoring is a peculiar beast. I'll read it in Biella's voice as best I can manage. Biella's voice, by the way, it takes a lot of energy to read in her voice. It's not that easy. Anyway, dear questioner, ignoring is a peculiar beast. It doesn't conform to the usual logic. What we assume it isn't. Smile. To ignore is actually to pay a particular kind of attention. This seems contradictory at first, but when we look closer, we see it so. Ignoring is deliberately not paying attention, but we have to be paying attention to not paying attention, and this is difficult. As a result, when what we make an effort to ignore is still in our mind in some way. Try, for instance, to ignore the texture of the ceiling. Immediately our thoughts, even our eyes, go to the ceiling. See, try to ignore the texture of the ceiling. It's something you never pay attention to. But now that I mention it, try to ignore it now. Right. Immediately our thoughts, even our eyes, go to the ceiling. Now that we have the idea of ceiling in mind, and once there, it's difficult to get rid of via direct effort. However, once we understand that ignoring is a particular form of attention, then we can use this understanding to positive effect. Instead of focusing on ignoring, we can instead shift to a more potent, useful, and manageable perspective and strategy. We instead employ emphasis, deliberate and selective emphasis. Why does that C look like an E? Yeah, it is a C. All right. Deliberate and selective emphasis. Emphasized attention. For instance, our objective is to ignore the ceiling, but instead of focusing on the ceiling, we instead pay full attention to the floor. We immerse ourselves in selectively emphasizing the floor. Now all our energy and attention is on the floor. The ceiling fades as we slip into full immersion of the floor or something else. The ceiling is de-emphasized. The ceiling is de-emphasized. And I need to emphasize, de-emphasize. This brings us to another aspect of ignoring and emphasis. The mechanism, the mind brain uses, which is importance. This brings us to another aspect of ignoring and emphasis. The mechanism the mind brain uses, which is importance. How much we deem something to be important is what determines emphasis, and to a large measure, attention. This is a mental strategy we can deliberately employ. We have to regard what we wish to ignore as unimportant, inconsequential, meaningless, trivial, insignificant, and at the bottom of the order when it comes to importance. At the same time, we need to make sure that what we choose to pay attention to instead, what we focus on, and what we hope to immerse ourselves in, is important to us. Importance can be interest also. To the mind brain, they are the same. Wow. Deliberate focus. Thus, the entire trick to ignoring lies in shifting focus, attention, and emphasis. We can't really ignore, so we place our energy somewhere else instead. And this is the key also to positive ignoring. It, it is. It's all about what we do with our energy, where we invest it. Our energy, much like sunshine, will grow whatever it falls on, weed or not. It's up to us to be selective and judicious as to what we grow with our energy. It's up to us to be selective and judicious as to what we grow with our energy and attention. But we have to understand that it's all about directing that energy towards something positive rather than focusing on ignoring the negative. All that does is connect us to the negative and is counterproductive. Instead, we have to immerse in the positive, making it our paramount emphasis and develop the habit of unrelenting positivity. Biella. Any comments? Any comments? Beena, Norma, any comments?
Not yet. I'm just coming. In a minute. Yeah, I'm just coming.
Right. Sorry, I have to leave now. That's all right, Norma. That's all right. I'm always thankful for whatever little time I get. Oh yes, Biella is always learning more. There are no full stops, precisely. This is Nobelia-Living, that understanding that whatever they have learned is only as good as it lasts. Only as good as it lasts. When moreness comes, you update or and replace if need be. They never have this arrogance to assume that what they know is the end. Like you say, there are no full stops in Nobelia-Living. Absolutely. No problem if you have to leave, Norma. Always. I'm thankful for whatever I get, however little it might be, makes no difference, right? When you want nothing, the littlest, tiniest thing is the greatest gift. Fantastic power. Fantastic power. All right. Uh, any comments on this article, Beena?
I just said, okay, I'm coming in
Oh,
a
oh,
minute.
oh, oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. Okay. Okay, no worry. I'll move on to chapter 6. No problem. No problem. So we can't have dead air. We can't have dead air. We get into broadcaster mode. Can't have dead air. All right. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Causing happiness. What type of comments can make someone happy? Wow. Very interesting question. These questions, because they're coming from such a diversity of people. And later, I answered many questions on Quora. And I don't remember what the order was. Some of these I may have answered on Quora and then they went into the newspaper. I know the first 60 went to the newspaper, right? So all of them in book one, I think. No, I had some at the end. Yeah, I pulled some from later on, just to make the word count match between the two books, right? So I'm going to publish like, a one and two, right? Volume one, volume two, I guess. Maybe I should call it volume then one. Yeah, all right. Let me do that. Let me do that. Yeah. Okay. Volume one. All right. What type of comments can make someone happy? And in the ebook version, I'm going to see if I can do it in the paperback version too. I'm going to include the pictures. In the paperback version, it gets very expensive when you include pictures, but I'll see. If it's manageable in some way, I'm going to do it because they add a lot, right? And there's a themeness to the pictures. And these are pictures I used when I published the articles originally, right? Not only in the newspaper, but also published them on my blog and on the website. And they usually chosen with great care, much like my titles. All right, causing happiness. What type of comments can make someone happy? Dear questioner, there are many types of comments which will make people happy. The question is rather, what kind will lead to lasting happiness? I just love Biella. Just love Biella. Look at what she does here. I'm going to do a bit of capital R reading here. Yes? Look at what she does. She doesn't just take the question on its face, but she looks at the bigger context. Always, this is Biella's mindset, looking at the larger, greater context, overview perspective, in other words. She not only regularly practices shifting perspective to multiple perspectives, but she also practices overview perspective. This overview perspective is very profound. It's what I was sharing earlier about Nobelia-Living being an overview perspective implementation of all of the particular perspectives that come from religious or theological perspectives, right? When you abstract it, you see that overview perspective, you get universal perspective, and man, it's wonderful, right? You get to see the commonalities, and then you get to see what really matters, which is not the particular style or detail, right? And if you need clothing for warmth, for instance, does it matter what they look like? The objective is to get warm. You might say, yeah, but if you're out there in the cold and nobody's around, you don't care what you look like as long as you're warm, right? So this is him. When you focus on value, you start to see past the frivolous, the unnecessary, right? Dear questioner, there are many types of comments which will make people happy. The question is rather, what kind will lead to lasting happiness? We can flatter and stroke. We can support the indulgences of others with our comments. We can approve their crappiness. And for many, such shallow comments will make them happy, at least in the short term. But if we engage in such behavior, all we do is help to entrench a flawed happiness system. A system where the individual becomes more and more dependent on outside input for their happiness and grows further and further away from being able to generate and be in charge of their own happiness, which is, of course, ultimately the only way and path to real happiness. Ah, look at this capital C consideration, the Nobelia consideration of this. No, Norma, I was calling Biella Norma. See, Biella is so incredibly considerate that she could give questions. She could answer the questions. Right? What type of comments can make somebody happy? She can give a whole list. You're wonderful. You're awesome. You're a good person. You're nice. You're kind. You're considerate. You're caring. Blah blah blah. All of those will make people happy. But are they actually beneficial to the individual in the long term? Right? So I call that band-aid assistance. When you put a band-aid on an injury, yes, it makes it feel better, but it doesn't necessarily cure the problem that led to the injury. Yes. I mean, if you're consistently cutting yourself, you need to learn how to use a knife. Yeah. That's the real problem. Yeah. See? Or if you're
Yes.
cutting yourself like in the psychological thing, cutting because you got emotional trauma or whatever, where this idea came from is just misapplied should. Kids learned it. Oh, that's what you should do if you're disturbed and stressed and bothered. And then they start doing it. There's no literal logic to it. It's just other than following an idea. Anyway, but again, you put band-aids on that, you're not treating the underlying psychological problem, which is following other people's bad examples. I mean, that's a terrible thing, right? And not trusting your own sensibility, your own judgment. Anyway, a lot of things to go. My point is that this Nobelia consideration of Biella is that she takes this and looks at it in the bigger picture. She wants to be truly kind. She wants to be truly helpful and of assistance. And giving this person band-aid answers, it help them in the short term, yes, but in the long term, not, right? So she goes further, moreness, depth. This is Biella, moreness, right? This is pure Biella here in this. It's wonderful. Positive realism. Look at that title. Look at that title. Many realists will tell you that being a realist is not to be positive because, well, realistically, when you look at the world sucks. The world's a horrible place. No, that's not true. The overwhelming majority and the composition of the world, there has to be more positivity than negativity. Otherwise, we'll keep going backwards and we'll implode and we'll end up in anarchy. Our world does grow and progress and improve. Life now is ridiculously better than it was in your grandparents' time. I don't care how much they hanker after the good old days. This is just a distortion of memory. Yes, because they're only selectively remembering the good parts. They forget all the negative parts. Do you really want to go back to outdoor toilets? No, that's better. Do you really want to go back to not having indoor plumbing? when you have to go and fetch your water from the well. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, that sucked. That wasn't so good. Do you really want to go back to not having central heating, to having to make a fire every day and it's smelling like smoke 24/7, and having the charcoal, the soot all over the place? Oh, yeah, yeah. That sucked. Yeah, yeah. You could never wear white in those times. Yeah. I mean, come on, seriously, people. Do you want to go back to a time when superstitions ruled? Yeah. And you could be blamed for whatever nonsense because of some superstition and get into trouble. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, yeah. See, people remember things very, and I use this example of our grandparents because at least, for most of us, that was something that doesn't matter, even if you're much younger than me, our grandparents had this nonsense still, right? But when we think of this, and you go back even further, right? Superstitions were just worse than it was in your grandparents' time. At least in your grandparents' time, they still had technology, at least within the range of, from my age to somebody who's a teenager. Either of our grandparents were in a time when technology was already there, but it's pre-internet time and all of this, right? So there's a very radical difference between whoever's listening to this, anybody who's able to listen to this, their grandparents in general, and now is a very big difference, right? So this is a good example of this inappropriate nostalgia. It's absolutely absurd. Our world has improved remarkably, even within just one generation. A generation ago, we didn't have internet, we didn't have mobile cell phones. Generation ago, yeah, one generation. Profound magical change. Yes, yeah. A lot of people complain, but they don't go back to the times before. You hear people complaining about mobile phones and all this, but do you get rid of your mobile phone? No. So obviously it's not worse. Like, come on, you have choice, be disciplined. It's like anything, go back to a time when you didn't have sugar. People complain about sugar. Don't indulge, don't overdo sugar. It's potent, it's valuable, it's wonderful, right? So whatever, anything, chocolate, people complain about chocolate. Well, fine, get rid of chocolate. You don't have to eat chocolate, nobody's forcing you. Nobody's forcing you. So stop complaining about your inability to have any kind of self-control. It's just an excuse for your own indulgence, right? So anyway, but positive realism. Nobelia-Living is about positive realism. I'll repeat that. Nobelia-Living is about positive realism. Yeah. These are new books, Norma. Norma asked, are you republishing your former two books or publishing new ones? These are articles that were published independently as articles. I'm putting them together and publishing them as a book, right? So the book is comprised of these articles. Some of these articles might not have been published, the later ones especially, right? But they were published as articles for this newspaper, which it was a physical newspaper, if I know correctly, but by the time I came to it, it was transitioning into in digital. And digital newspapers, I don't know, they are around, but they didn't quite have the success that physical newspapers have. So you have to be kind of a big publication to last. So anyway, the Gateway Gazette, it didn't last as a digital one. So these moved to being published like on my blog and on the website, which is publishing. It's legitimate publishing. Legally, it's publishing, by the way. But it's not traditional publishing where you put it in a book. But anyway, they were individual, Norma. So what I'm doing now in the books, I'm putting them all together and publishing them together as books. So I hope you heard that. I don't know if you're just asking me. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm taking these what were before just individual articles and posts, putting them together into two books. Yes. I hope that makes sense, Norma. I don't know if you're hearing me because you said you had to leave, but then you commented in Messenger, so I'm not sure if you're still listening to the open. Yeah. No, anyway, I hope so. No worries. Either way, I did explain. Positive realism. This is Nobelia-Living, right? All of Nobelia is the concept, the underlying philosophy of Nobelia, and is positive realism, right? Beena, makes sense? Yes. You familiar with what Nobelia-Living is all about? Does this concept of positive realism make sense?
Yes.
All right. It's a big deal. It's a big
Yes,
deal.
and
Yeah.
even though I knew that the concept behind that, but it's still when I read that term and you were reading and I was like, wow, positive realism. Oh wow, okay. So what is this? So because you know that the understanding is there. The term is very unique, okay, and
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
unless you didn't make it obvious, it was not obvious. So yes.
Yeah. Stephanie is a friend that I met via Facebook. Yes. And she shared and talked, and I know her story, and she has a very deep and profound story. Norma asks, is Stephanie an author? She hasn't written it out in that way, but I feel like everyone has a story to tell, and as such, to me, you are authors. Just because you don't write them out doesn't mean that you're not an author. Yeah. Like you, Norma, you write wonderful stuff, right? You've written a lot. So to me, I regard you as an author. Yeah, yeah. You bought one of my books when you first met me. I only had one published then. I only published the other one fairly recently, the second book. So these are going to be books 3 and 4 that I publish, right? But yeah, at the time when you met me, I only had one published, and you bought that. Yes, you didn't. I don't think you bought the second book, but maybe. But if you bought the second book, it would have had to be much later because it was only published like 2 years after the first one, 2 or 3 years of 18 to 24 years, 4 years after. Yeah. Oh, wow. Was it published in 22 or 23? I don't remember now. Anyway, it was published more recently. Okay. So yeah, no, Stephanie's not an author in the normal sense of the word. No, just an internet friend from Facebook. But you know, to me, even though people come into my life and then they leave again, like I haven't spoken to Stephanie in ages, and even though I said, "Hey, come and chat," I haven't connected with Stephanie anyway for I think a couple of years now, probably. But that doesn't mean that they stop being my friends, like Beena was saying earlier, right? No, if you decide not to chat to me or you go away, you don't have internet, whatever, I know people's lives change. Doesn't mean that you might stop being my friend. Doesn't mean I stop being your friend. No. So an internet friend, Facebook friend that has like you, Norma, Stephanie has a magical, beautiful heart. So this stays with me. It's important to me. I like such people. I like knowing such people. Even though she's not in my daily, day-to-day life, so it's a different kind of a friendship. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You know, I don't rank things. Yeah, big, small, all the same to me. Yes, yes. Just because I interact very little doesn't mean that the relationship isn't something that is significant. Of course it is. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah, it's all good, Norma. It doesn't matter if you remember or not, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I know I have two, and that's maybe where the confusion with two and two is coming out. I have currently have two published, and they on narcissism and manipulation and abuse, right? But I wanted to, and they're part of the realism series, and I'm going to publish these two as books 3 and 4 of the realism series because this is different kind of realism. This is positive realism. See? This is very important that we understand this. And also, when you understand in the context, the greater context of Nobelia-Living, that all of these articles, because they're coming from Biella, they are how she is applying Nobelia-Living in this world. Yes, because these are all to people who live in this world, right? Positive realism. Let's keep reading. If our comments lead to maintaining a flawed system of being, even if they produce a temporary happiness, we aren't truly contributing to the overall long-term happiness. But it's also not our responsibility to make others happy. It's certainly not on us to make them miserable either. And it's a good thing to contribute to the happiness of the world, which leaves us in an interesting place. The way out of this is to focus on comments which are rooted in positive realism. Now, this enables us to avoid the shallowness and BS of flattery and hollow approval just to be nice and so on. At the same time, it allows us to connect to longer term, deeper matters. Also, because we have to set ourselves to be real and positive, we now get to shape our comments with both, which leads us to what I call capital D diplomacy, or Nobelia
Nobelia Diplomacy.
Diplomacy. Thank you, Beena. Thank you, Beena. Capital D diplomacy or Nobelia diplomacy. See, it doesn't know it, so you have to learn the spelling. Yes, yes, you don't know it, but you can learn it. Or Nobelia diplomacy, which is the application of positive realism. The application emphasized. We learn to tell the truth of matters, even if they may be uncomfortable or not so pleasant, but in positive, pleasing, and acceptable ways. This is that capital H honesty, in other words, yes? Nobelia honesty, yes? We get to tell the truth of matters. Now, she doesn't say it here because remember, she's writing to those that aren't immersed in this whole world of Nobelia living and all that, right? So they're not familiar with it. So she has to adjust her language because she's writing to the general public, right? Yeah. Grin, not sure I know you now. You do, you do. You know me, Norma. You know my heart. It's a good, loving heart. End of the story, right? Probably only Beena knows you properly. Maybe, maybe. Yeah, yeah. Olivia was active in those days. Seems so long ago now. Yeah, a little bit. I tried to get Olivia immersed and involved. She didn't want to. So, all right, said, yeah, but that's your thing. How is goodness my thing? How is moreness my thing? No, it's just a flavoring. The abstract's all the same. But yeah, people make choices. People make choices, Norma, and it's all good. I respect Olivia's choices. Just because they they don't really, correspond and connect, and I would have preferred other choices, but that doesn't mean I don't respect them. If she's doing what makes her happy, because anybody, if they do what makes them happy and I love them, how can I not be happy with their choices? I have to be. That's real love. It's not what I personally choose and want. That's irrelevant. It's what they choose and want. If I truly want them, I'm happy with what they choose for them. This is real love. This is real love, even if it doesn't correspond with what I personally might want. That's real, true,
Oh,
capital L love, right,
I want to
Beena?
add something here.
Please,
I want to add something here
please.
because this is very important, and
It's huge.
this is so profound to have this
Yeah,
knowing, quote unquote, knowing
yeah.
anyone. Because I think Norma says that, okay, maybe I know you. Uh, I never intended to know uh, anyone, and especially self. I
Wonderful.
never do that
Yeah.
because it's a useless kind of a thing for me.
Yes.
Because if
Yes.
you are trying to, if you're intending to know someone, what we actually do, we try to figure out them, which means by implication we are trying to put them in a box, in
Yeah.
something like find, in something
Exactly.
is stagnant, something is not growing. So I cannot, and of course I'm very clear about this, that I don't know him, I don't know self, no, and I don't have any intent to know him.
Good.
We
Good.
every single day
Good.
when we interact with each other, it's a new day, and we treat each other like, okay, as someone who is special, of course. He
Yes.
is he's a very good friend. Really, really, I don't want to use the term that he's my best friend. like a best friend because it's very
Best is
misused term,
hierarchical.
but
Exactly.
he is,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, yes. So that's why I don't want to use, but really,
A
we are
capital F
very good
friend, a
friends.
Nobelia
It,
friend.
yes, yes, friends who don't stress each other for by expectations, by any limitations.
Yes.
No, okay. And then when we share something like when I change something because it's a process and it's an ongoing process. Every single day, something really really change in me. I don't know how to say that. I'm really struggling with the grammar, but really, every single day, something I observe, of course, many more than that, but at least one thing every single day I feel, I observe in myself that it is now changed. It's a new thing, it's a new perspective, and I adapt, and of course, I learn and I'm growing. And for a person who is aware that he or she or they are changing every moment of at least every single day when they are interacting with other people, it is almost impossible for them to set any kind of criteria, fixed pattern for their interaction. So it has to be abstract. So the abstract is that we do treat each other as someone really we are meeting now, not
Mm.
like okay completely ignoring that okay what we already know about each other, like okay yes this is what we are going to do, this is the thing, but these are not the things which is inhibiting Syl's moreness, no, which are
Yeah.
these are the not things which inhibits my moreness. when
Yeah.
we when we interact with each other, like oh yes, how are Syl, how are you, what are you doing, and okay, and then we get into the flow. We don't claim that we know each other, though we are
Correct.
more than best friends. I can say that, okay, really, because the way people use best friends or besties, it's a very tarnished term, sir.
It's a very what?
I
It's a
can
very
say that.
what?
Misused or tarnished.
Ah, right. 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 Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are very good friends, really very, very good friends. But
Yes.
I don't know him. No, I don't know him. He's a different person, and he do surprise me with his responses and reaction towards new
Good.
things and of
Good.
course things also.
Good. I try to surprise
And it is
myself
good,
too. Yeah. Yeah.
and it is good,
Yeah. All right.
and that's it. So
Let me
this is
put this in a different context, Beena. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
yes.
Carry on if there's more.
No, 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 please. No, no, please,
Okay.
please continue.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were kind of there at the end. I want to restate. I want to do a repeat back of what you said, right? And I want to put it in the context of
Mhm,
Biella and Ursula. All right. Now,
mhm,
if we take Ursula here, right? And I know Norma loves Ursula's, right? Okay.
mhm.
Norma, if we take this in the context of Ursula, would you say, Bina and Norma, would you say that Ursula is trying to know Biella, or rather, it would be more accurate to say that Ursula is trying to discover Biella, and Biella is
Discover or
trying to
describe?
discover Ursula. In the same way, Bina, would you say
Exactly.
it's more accurate to say that you are trying to discover me? Yes, rather than know me.
Because
And me
yes,
likewise.
it is
I
not
feel like
like that
I
for
try
me,
to
and
discover you. I discover Norma every day. I discover some more magic, more wonderfulness about Norma and about you. Yes, every day. Yeah,
yes, and it is with everyone. With
exactly.
Syl, I can say that because it is because we interact more than other people in our lives. So
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
because I spend a lot of time online. It is because of nature also, but also it is my intent because
Correct.
I do get a lot of value. So this is my intent, and I am very open about this that yes, I do take really, really big advantage of this opportunity I have in my life. And
Hmm.
I feel that, okay, if anyone, not necessarily it is it has to be from Syl, for anyone, anywhere, if you see the value and a constant value, this is
Hmm.
really a key here because
Hmm.
we can get value, but do we get a constant value? Like really constantly getting
Correct.
value
Correct.
every
Correct.
single moment, every single day? it's a big deal. That's why it's a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
capital O opportunity for me, because I am
Yes.
getting
And
every
the
single day value.
moreness
And
value on
for
top of
getting
that,
value,
not regular value. It's moreness
yes,
value.
and to perceive and to receive value, you have to evaluate every single day your reaction, your
Right.
responses, what
Right.
you are actually receiving and perceiving. We have to be very cautious about that, and I'm very cautious about what I
Yeah.
am,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm very thorough and strict about uh, what I am actually exposing myself to.
Yes.
Really,
Now,
I'm very cautious of
right. So when you said that you don't try to know me, because to know me is to
No,
notice
never.
me. Yes. But would you say it's more
Is
accurate
to
then
describe you. And this,
to discover me rather than to describe me? Because discovery is a constant ongoing process
I
of
don't.
revealing what the moreness is, isn't it?
y- Yes, but I don't connect any kind of word like this with you
Ah,
or with
good.
anyone, of course, but especially with you, because my focus is not on you. My focus is on the value,
There you go.
always.
Right. But
So
it's discovering
it
that
is not
value,
connected or limited to you.
uncovering, right? Not just
Yes,
discovering, but uncovering.
yes.
Correct? Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. With know, you can say, well, to know somebody is to connect to their value. But the problem, like you said, with know is that it can be very limiting. And when we come to think we know, we are ignoring the fact or not paying attention to the fact or not giving due respect to the fact that this person is constantly evolving. Doesn't mean that changing doesn't make them a different person, but we add, right? So that's why discovery is very important. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yes, and I'm taking care of
Uh,
that message
okay.
still.
Yeah. I don't.
But
Yeah.
when once people when people get into this mindset that they know each other, or they want to know and they want to, like, okay, really, actually the problem is that we want to describe other person, and by describing you are actually putting some boundaries and limitation.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to, and that
Yeah.
is where everything gets like really getting stagnant. So this is something we avoid, and it never
Correct.
occurred to me.
Correct.
It's not.
Correct. Correct.
It even doesn't. It never occurred to my, like, okay, can I say, when people ask, no, I don't know, but at least what I know is that he will try his best to be appropriate and impeccable in any situation.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is something,
Trust.
yes,
Trust. Trusting that intent to goodness. In other words,
exactly.
trusting in the moreness. Very important. Very important. That's why capital T trust is so huge. And at the start of today's session, in trusting that the intent to goodness is there. When we do this, we get Nobelia living. Yes. Like you trusted your friends' intent to goodness. You trusted that they were doing something and their intent was good, right? Even though it didn't make sense to you, maybe at the time you're like, oh, what the hell are you doing? What are you? Well, I know you wouldn't say what the hell, but still, right? Very powerful, very powerful. But when we start to shift to that trust, we get Nobelia living. It's like Norma. I always trust that your intent is good. No matter what comes out, in some way it's good. Sometimes we can have inappropriate application of goodness and then it gets scrambled, right? But the underlying intent is still to be good in some way, right? Now, our understanding of what is good can get severely corrupted. Like, look at criminals, right? When you grow up in a criminal society, literally a criminal family, criminal society, you taught things like stealing and that is good. We get corrupted goodness too.
Wow.
Oh yeah, oh
Oh yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. You thought that this is a good thing to do and to be able to cheat people and con
Oh
them and
yes.
whatever.
Okay. Okay.
Right? All thought that this is
I need to take back my, okay. Okay. Sorry. I need to take back my surprise. Yes. Yes. It is
I
something.
love that. I need to take
Yes.
back my prize.
Yes.
Because
Yeah. It
you
just
the
kicks in
moment
like, okay, whoa, why you
because
are
you knew it
surprised?
already, right?
Huh.
It just you'd forgotten that you knew it. So I
Yes.
love that. I need to take back my
Exactly.
surprise. Brilliant, brilliant,
Yes.
brilliant. Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
But this thing of discovery, uncovering, this is a magical way to look at our friends because, like you said, you get surprised all the time. We need to have this same understanding of ourselves. We are more than we think we are. Therefore, I can be surprised by myself. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. Okay. Very magical and brilliant and awesome. All right. We continue reading the last part here, which has now been,
Okay.
that's why I'm reading this out loud, because anybody who does any kind of writing, the best editing is to have it read aloud. When ideally Beena was eating, so I would like her to read this, and now she's busy responding to somebody who's got a query about something that we're selling, because you can't read right now.
No, it's okay.
But
No, it's okay.
oh,
No,
you
it's
can
okay.
read.
Yes, don't assume anything on my behalf.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, all right, all right. We have to sometimes, but you're quite right. You're quite right. Very appropriately. Yes,
I
yes,
was just
yes.
kidding.
I am
Oh, it was
appropriately
just
scolded. I am appropriately scolded, and I love it. I love it. See, this is part of Nobelia living. Bina wasn't
oh,
scolding me, really. She's making fun of it. She's having
oh,
fun. It's joy. But she also is saying
yes.
something at the same token, which is, she knows I don't do this in general, but it's a
Oh,
good
yes,
reminder
yes.
to not do this, right? So there is a sobriety to what she says, even though it was coming through as a tease. Doesn't matter. It's still an
Oh,
important
yes.
point,
Oh,
right?
yes. Oh,
So
yes.
it's
Yes.
multi-purpose, multi-purpose. All right, very good. Since I'm
Yes, and there
eating,
is,
you read, please,
yes,
this
and there
last,
is a
last.
reason for that. There is a reason for that because now that
Okay.
person is getting into technical details, which I'm not able to respond. So I just took this liberty and
Oh,
I said, okay.
oh. So in other words, what Beena is saying in a very nice capital D diplomacy, Nobelia diplomacy way. So will you please take care of him? I can't. All right, all right.
Exactly, I need help. Okay, yes, but you can do this later.
Oh,
No problem because I just said, okay, let me see. So after eating, please. No
uh,
hurry, no rush.
uh,
Okay.
mm. No, they're
Capital
not.
D diplomacy or Nobelia diplomacy.
Mm.
Using the power of capital D diplomacy or of Nobelia diplomacy or Nobelia diplomacy.
Yeah. No, using the power of capital D diplomacy, of Nobelia diplomacy is of.
Okay,
She's
okay.
repeating this, right?
Use
Of capital D,
okay,
of same thing. See? Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So using the power of capital D diplomacy of Nobelia diplomacy, we get to make comments and say things to others and share and interact in ways that do not compromise truth. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Ah. And compromise truth. Do not corrupt through indulging others or bending to their short-term desires. Oh wow, my screen jumps up suddenly. Anyway,
Wasn't me.
bending to their short-term desires for hollow happiness. Through this kind of interpersonal diplomacy, we get to make others happy by being real and genuine, doing so in a positive and pleasant way. When we make comments of this nature, we also connect to another powerful understanding, capital U understanding, when it comes to comments, and it's built into the understanding of the word comment itself. Comments are a bonus, a free gift, or addition. They are not needed or demanded. We can make them or not. When we understand that when we comment, we are essentially sharing our perspectives and thoughts, beliefs and ideas. If we keep this in mind when we comment, and this is a fundamental to capital D diplomacy, this understanding of sharing, we share instead of tell, becomes okay. We share instead of trying to specifically do something. Our sharing thus becomes a free gift. If we share our comments in such a way, the other person can take them as they will. And if the positivity of our realism is clear, they will easily be able to see our overall intent in our comments. The intent to be positive and real. They will clearly
The
see
intent to
our
be
aim and goal.
positive and real. Very important. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, they will clearly see our aim and goal, which is to add to the happiness of the world. To add, as you believe and see, might be a way to the
Mm.
individual's long term happiness,
Mm.
a real happiness, and not a temporary flattering or indulging.
Yeah.
When applying capital D diplomacy and positive realism in this way, our comments become more thoughtful. We share freely. And because we have put more into our comments, we are really sharing a gift of energy, a free gift that can be utilized and enjoyed by the person we are sharing our comments with. And in this way, we contribute to their happiness by giving them that most potent gift of choice and awareness,
Yeah.
a most powerful gift of happiness. Biella.
Wow. Yeah. Comments? Comments? Comments?
Yes, comments, capital C comments. Okay, I will try my
Mm,
best, but yes, this is the real art. Okay, in a more pleasant way, when you use the word, I guess that, yes, if I remember it correctly, you use the word like in a more pleasant way. So what actually the present way is, without compromising the reality, without compromising
exactly.
the truth, without compromising your integrity and your honesty and your self-honesty, to say
Wow.
that in a more pleasant way. So the first is that, okay, for me, as someone who is trying to understand this, the first is to pay attention to our vocabulary, our tone, the most important, of course, our intent, what we are trying to achieve with that.
Exactly.
If I'm trying to influence them by any means, then of course it is going to be taken as a criticism, and of course as an order. Then it is not going to be perceived as a comment. When we are commenting on something, it is just a neutral thing. It is just what I feel. I'm just giving my feedback. It has nothing to do with to change or manipulate any situation or anyone. First thing, it has to be clear that by sharing my comments, I am not trying to convince other people. That is something, if it is clear, it is going to reflect in my
Exactly.
vocabulary also. So that is something very important. And the second, of course, your tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can be irritated, I can be bothered, I can be
Mm,
puzzled, I can be shocked, surprised. It has to be not an influence on my comment on anything, because they have nothing to do with that. It is my feeling, it is my emotions right now. So it has to be completely detached. So then it's a free comment, it's a free sharing. The politeness or the pleasant way, it is something I'm still, I feel that, okay, I need to work on that, and I'm trying my best to be more gentle with my sharing, whether people are going to like it or dislike it. I don't care much about that anymore. It is not my part of thing. But also that I I have this understanding now that the other person, no matter seem like to me, how negative it is for me, but still I have this clarity in my mind. Their intent is good, and if their intent is good, how can I really be harmful by using any words which sound like a criticism? I try to do that. Naturally, I feel that my thought process or my personality is very strong. So I really need to work more on that. And sometimes I do lose my patience and I'm like, come on. But who am I to think like that? Who am I to get bothered or irritated or tense by or any situation? No, no one. They are doing things even if their actions seem negative. They are doing it with the good intent. Somewhere there is a good intent. And just try to focus on that.
yes. That's the key. That's the key. Now, I love this article. I love this article because Biella shares in a very nice way not only is she being capital D diplomatic, she's applying Nobelia diplomacy, but she's also being very gentle and very delicate and also very, very sophisticated. Yes?
Yes.
It's a very sophisticated understanding to say this difference between band-aid help and longer-term help, right? I mean, when she's giving them the potent gift of choice and awareness, this is one of the few things that we can truly give is choice and awareness because it's not really something because whenever you give anything else there's a lot of limitations and boundaries and borders and problems associated with giving stuff no matter how good you may think it is it can be a problem, right? So except for choice and awareness, so it's very, very, very powerful, a most powerful gift of happiness. There's a very sophisticated answer and response here, but done in a way that is connectable. I feel, at least I hope so, right? Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm taking care of John there, Beena.
Okay, thank you.
Did you like this article, Beena? Did it connect? Did it
Oh
resonate?
yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Okay.
And this is something I really want to learn. This is something I really want to be an expert in. Really, this is something I
What
really
is?
want because to have this understanding, the complete grasp or command on Nobelia diplomacy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you are very good at it already. And it is an art. Yes, it's a
Exactly.
skill, but it's also like painting paintings. It's both a skill and an art. That's why it's called art, right? But art isn't just
Yes.
you just go. You need some skills, right, to make your art more effective, more applicable. Combination of creativity and skill, art. Yeah.
Yes.
So Nobelia diplomacy is an art. Yeah. All right. I'm enjoying your
Yes. And
reading,
this is
Beena.
what
Chapter 7.
I
Wow. Wow. I just like this heading here, right?
Mhm.
Be the change. Be Sidd.
Exactly, this is what I was about to say.
Oh,
Yes. Okay. Be the change. What are the effective ways
one
for an
second, one
individual?
second, one second. Sorry, Beena, before you get going.
Mhm.
That bit of fun we're having there with Be Sidd. There's a lot more to it. Yeah? Sidd is short
Yes.
for Siddhartha. Siddhartha is in more modern times uh, well known for the book by Hermann Hesse, for which he won the Nobel Prize, right? Now, this was back in, I
Yes.
think, 1922 or 21, but the book resurfaced in the 70s, more or less, and became very popular. I'm not sure exactly when, it may have been in the 60s, but in relatively more recent times, yeah? At least in for my generation when we were younger, right? So a lot of people that are within 10, 20 years of me are aware of this book because it's been very influential and it had a great effect on our modern culture, like I was explaining in the hippie culture. Very few realize how much influence that has had on our day-to-day understandings. Anyway, so Siddhartha, the book, is about an individual who is looking for spiritual moreness, yes, to put it in Nobelia language, to paraphrase it, to abstract it, in other words, right? And they're on a journey. And in the book, they change. They go through many changes, right? So Siddhartha is somewhat synonymous with personal change. Yeah. Now, also, Siddhartha is the name of Buddha, his personal name. His first name was Siddhartha Gautama, right?
Yes.
Right. So a lot of people don't know this. They just know him as the Buddha. So Siddhartha, the person, the individual, is also somebody who underwent profound change. Yes, he was this
Yes.
rich, spoiled kid, right? Indulgent, had everything wonderful, right? And he changed from that. No? Now, what is the teaching of Buddha, or at least Buddha never really taught in the way we think. That's just somebody else describing. Buddha shared. He shared things which people took to be teachings. But from Buddha's perspective, if you look closely, he's sharing, right? So Buddha shared, and what he shared is precisely about change. He's sharing tools, techniques, policies, ideas, understandings which take you from being a regular, ordinary individual to being a Buddha. This is about the
Mm.
most profound change that we can make. It's about the most extreme change we can make. So Buddhism, in other words, Siddhartha, is precisely be the change. So be Sid it's an incredibly wonderful, profound, marvelous encapsulation, multi-layeredness that has a lot behind it. It's not just an abbreviation of Beena's name, Beena Siddiqui. Yes, I always pronounce her last name properly. Beena always says I'm getting it wrong, but it sounds the same to me, right? But when you abbreviate that, you get BSID. So there's some lot of magic involved in this. It's not just a fun abbreviation. It means something. And Beena is about being change, being Sid. Yes, change. Siddhartha, change, change, change. Moreness, a change, not just change for the sake of change, but a change with the intent to moreness. Isn't that what Siddhartha was about, right? Always he had this intent to moreness, correct? Beena?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So be Sid
Yes.
is change with the intent to moreness, correct?
Exactly. And this is when I had this name, like B said, um, one of my friends said, "Okay, from where you get this name?" And for the obvious reason, the on surface reason for me was that my surname is a bit difficult to pronounce, and especially it might be difficult uh, for my American and European friends. So I said that's why I just use the initial Siddiqui. My name, my surname is Siddiqui. It's a typical sound, so that's why I did that. And but my friend said to me, Alan, and says, no, nothing actually happens by accident, and everything happens by accident. And then he suggested me to read Siddhartha, and he says that it is just a okay. In his words, it was it was an omen, yes. But when I see that now, it was just coming by attunement. I had to read that book. I had to go through that process, and of course all other things in my life. So my intent was just to keep the initials, but then it came into a most profound way. So that was that's a story behind B Sid. But I love that, really, really. And when I was saying that, I guess Cher also said that, like, be no Syl was saying that, be Sid, be Siddhartha, and be
Yeah,
change. This is what you said
yeah,
earlier
yeah,
also
yeah,
long
exactly.
ago.
It's a
Yes.
very magical
So
thing. I mean, just the fact that this
it
is
is
your
a
name
reminder for
and
me.
you represent this
Yeah.
so much, it's magical. It's just a gift from the universe, a magical gift from the
And
universe.
it's a reminder for me to
Yeah,
continuously look for that and do really
yeah,
change and adapt.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It is a
yeah.
good thing for me.
It's a fantastic thing. It's a fantastic thing. Yeah. I can't look up if because I'm messing up my screen share and Facebook
Yes.
won't load. Do we have an inverter listed, Beena, of any kind?
Okay,
I
let
know
me
I
check.
had one, but I know I sold it fairly recently, but I may have another one. Yeah.
Let me check. And in the meantime, you can read.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is.
Okay. Just an inverter. Then I can just, well, you can just, copy the link if it's not unsold and share it to him because
I will.
he's looking for a way to connect this booster directly to the direct current of his RV. But man, those inverters, you can get like a 75-watt inverter. I bet you can get it for like $20 or even less now, so not necessary. Okay, let's read the next story here and not get caught up in this. All right, the next one here is positive mindfulness. That's just the chapter heading. Sorry, the section heading. And the question is, which is more preferable of the two, mindfulness or training your brain to think positive in every situation? Absolutely fascinating question, right? Yeah, yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Okay. All right.
I
All right. So
do
this
have
this
one more, but let me check.
we have an inverter.
Yes, it's a different one. I'm checking.
How many watts? And is it still
Uh,
available though? It's
this
not
is what
sold?
I'm checking, sir.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
so it
I
is
thought you looked it
okay.
up in
Uh,
in 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 marketplace. Okay.
I looked it up in orders first. So now I'm checking there.
Oh,
So it
oh,
is saying
oh.
that okay, 700-watt
It's
inverter, car
sold.
power inverter, 12
It's
watt
sold. It's
to
sold. It's sold.
this
Oh.
is not. No, no. This is not
Oh.
the recent one. No. We had two.
Oh, we had two. Oh, okay. 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 Well, in
Yes.
marketplace, when you put in inverter, what do you get? Just a quicker way
I'm
of getting
doing
there. Ah, sorry.
okay.
Well, you went to orders and that sort of longer.
Yes, because mostly when things are not being listed on marketplace also, so I
Yeah,
just check
yeah,
my
yeah,
draft
yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah. Well, I want to give him the link, you see, and if it's not listed, then I can't give him the link. So that's why I wanted you to go there first directly. All right. So this question, which is more preferable of the two, mindfulness or training your brain to think positive in every situation? Just pay attention to that question and the question only, and the problems inherent in that. Right. And again, we have this comparative mindset or mentality of opposites, either or. Why is one more preferable than the other? Why are they even in opposition to each other? There's an assumption, and this is very important with the comparative mindset. When you compare things and you get into that mindset of this one is better than the other, yes, and therefore you start to devalue one. Now, if the answer had been here, well, mindfulness is better, then the person will only focus on mindfulness. But it's a crazy question, right? The question is broken. The question is broken. But that's because of how we've been taught to think. Mentality of opposites. In other words, mentality of opposites, if it's not black, then it must be white. It's not so. If
Hmm.
something is not black, it can be any
Yeah.
color. See? But our brain says if it's not black, well, then it's white. And you can ask people this. Ask them. Just ask a random person if something's not white, what color is it? And they'll tell you, well, must be black. If it's not white, then it's black. No, duh. Right? Now, okay, if it's such a duh question, they'll say, well, why are you asking? There must be a trick to it. But that's how we think, right? We tend to think in opposites. That's why I call it mentality of opposites. Very detrimental. So likewise here, it comes in subtle ways like this, right? You compare stuff and the comparisons go to opposites and you assume one is not valuable when the other is, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
now
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have.
Oh,
So
love
this
you
that
too,
one is
Norma.
not
Love you
delivered.
too, Norma. Love you too, Norma. Love you very much, Norma. All right. So say again, and Beena, what did you say?
No, that one was not delivered, at least with
Oh,
me.
oh, oh. But one of the two is sold and the other one not delivered.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
That's a pity. That's a pity. All right. Well, we don't have to say anything more. He's. I just wanted to send him a link if we had one. I know they're available on either eBay or Amazon very cheaply. I see them come up like, I mean, if I go look on Vine real quick here, we can see. Just for the curiosity now. Sorry, I'm digressing a little bit here. Which we'll see in 1 second here. Yeah, see, and this is 200 watt. That's a little bigger one, more than he needs, but even that is, $50. And let's see, 150 watt, and I'm looking for a weaker one. Oh, these are all 150 watts. All right, so they don't have they still. I don't think he needs that much for the booster. I don't think he needs even this much. Okay, that one won't load. Um, wow, none of them are loading. All right. Well, anyway, so they're cheap though. That's my point. You can get one for 75 watts for $20, I'm pretty sure, 20 something. Okay, let's look at this again. Right, this question. Did you hear the question, Beena? Because you were busy, so I'm not sure if you heard it. Which is more preferable of the two, mindfulness or training your brain to think positive in any situation, in every situation? Wow. I mean, it's just incredible, right? So let's hear what Biella has to say. You want to read, Beena? I'm enjoying your reading. I'm enjoying your reading. It gets me to hear this in from with
Oh,
a
yes,
different ear.
yes,
So it's
yes,
very helpful when you read.
yes.
Very helpful.
Okay. I want to read the question for myself again, so please just bear with me.
Oh, you read from the
Positive
top.
mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yes, positive mindfulness. Which is more preferable of the two? Mindfulness or training your brain to think positive in every situation? Dear questioner, ideally we would like to have both. However, if we think about mindfulness a bit, would mindfulness not automatically be positive or contain positivity? You could be extremely positive, but be immersed in a bubble of positivity, while good within itself could make us unaware of what could be detrimental to us. Having an overwhelmingly positive mindset does not mean we don't see the full scope of what we perceive. The difference is in how we react to what we perceive, how we interpret it, how it motivates us, stimulates us, inspires us. The key lies not in positivity alone, but in appropriate positivity,
Mm.
which really is mindfulness. Again, appropriate mindfulness. Wow. Okay. Appropriateness. The moment we add in appropriateness, positivity becomes mindful and mindfulness becomes positive,
There you go.
as well as sensible, strategic, discerning, etc. What we might aim for in terms of a perspective is to use our mindfulness to leverage our positivity by looking at whatever we encounter and whatever situation we find ourselves in from the viewpoint of how what's at hand can be made to be useful and valuable. This is the magic of both mindfulness and positivity. They are tools of perspective. When we develop the ability to shift perspective, especially deliberately, and see multiple perspectives, that's when we see more opportunities that we might otherwise have not. That's when we can extract opportunity, value, and usefulness. The issue is not what things are, they are what they are. Oh, wow. The issue is not what things are, they are what they are. It's what we do with them that matters.
Yes.
Mindfulness allows us to be aware of what is there and who we are in relation to it all.
Wow. Wow. Read
Oh,
that
yes.
sentence again, please.
Yes. Yes. I was like, oh, I want to read that again. Mindfulness
Yeah.
allows us to be aware of what is there and who we are in relation to it all. Mhm. This is very interesting. Hmm. The issue is not things that mindfulness allows to be aware of what is there and who we are in relation to it all. Oh, okay. While positivity allows us to
Hang on, hang on,
maintain
hang on.
motivation.
Oh, you're reading it again?
Yeah, I read this again, but I want to read this again. No
Read it
problem.
aloud. I mean, to us as well, right? I want to hear that again.
Okay, the issue is not what things are. They are what they are. It's what we do with them that matters. Mindfulness allows us to be aware of what is there and who we are in relation to it all, while positivity allows us to maintain motivation.
Yeah.
When we use the one to leverage the other, that's when we see more,
Yes.
connect to more, and extract more than we otherwise would, especially when we also leverage the incredible power and magic of appropriateness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very powerful and very cool. Very powerful and very cool. I like this part especially. Mindfulness allows us to be aware of what is there and who we are in relation to it all.
Hmm.
That's very powerful. I think I want to separate this in the sentences here. Just from a writing point of view, when you say something profound, leave it in its own sentence or even its own chapter. Yeah, because when you connect it
Hmm.
to more parts, then it tends to dilute it because there's more in the sentence. Yes. Look, when
Yes.
I read this, mindfulness allows us to be aware of what there is and who we are in relation to it all. Because there's a full stop. I end now. Oh, point. See? That's why a point is called a point and a full stop is a point. See? So it makes a point. It makes the point. When the full stop's not there, the point is ongoing. See? While
Yes.
positivity allows us to maintain motivation. Yeah, and that also needs the full stop there. So I was missing. When we use the one to leverage the other, that's when we see more, capital M more, connect to more, and extract more than we otherwise would, especially when we also leverage the incredible power and magic of appropriateness. Yeah, this also needs to be separated. Yep. Hey, that's powerful stuff. Thank you, Biella. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you. That's powerful stuff. Show's coming later, so not an issue. Yeah, yeah. So this is very cool. This is very cool. Very, very cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. You enjoyed this article, Veena?
Oh, yes.
Okay. No, you
Very
must say
much.
so. You must say so. I don't know if you do. I can't tell. You don't say so. So that's hard to tell. Yeah. So I like to know. I like to know.
If I'm reading it, if I'm just saying, I want to read
No,
this again,
afterwards. Yeah, no,
and
afterwards.
wow, okay. So for me, it is like complete immersion right there. This is interesting. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
powerful
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I don't mean during. I mean afterwards. Nobility is an art. Yes, yes, absolutely. Norma has more comments here that I want to get to. Right. So Norma, I hope you're listening. I want to go through your comments. Right. Not yet, says Norma. Grin, says Norma. I love your grins. I love your grins. So I use that now. I never. This is something that I only saw Norma do, and you'll see me write it now. We learn, we grow, we adapt things, right? See, Norma, I can't make hearts here now. It won't bring it up. And if I click, it'll just give it a like, and I want to give a heart there. Anyway, hope you're not talking about me. No, I'll say if I'm talking about you. I'll say, Norma, I'm talking about you. We can trust ourselves. Hard always to trust others, not to hurt us. Yes, that's a very hard lesson. And in Nobelia-Living, in the Dictionary of Power of the Average Aspirant, or New Noble on Nobelia, right? Or my Dictionary of Power, Beena's Dictionary of Power. And I hope you will add it to your Dictionary of Power. I hope you will make a Dictionary of Power. Never mind, add it, right? We have trust without trusting, or trust suspiciously. You say, but how can you trust suspiciously? How can you trust without trusting? This seems like a contradiction. No, it isn't, right? Because let's take dating, going on a first date. Yes. I can't commit to anything until I have some basis on which to trust the person. Yes. So, for instance, I'm not going to go and be alone with this person in an intimate environment, for instance, until I know I can trust them, because that's very dangerous and just foolish. Yes. I mean, if you just meet somebody for the first time, they could be pretending, they could be out to scam you, hurt you, they could be a horrible person. They might not have the intent to do this, but it may happen, as we know, right? And as people who've experienced this with others. So you need to be sure first before you commit. But until I need to commit, I can trust. Like if I'm in a public place, I can trust that you're a nice person, but I'm going to not trust, right? That because in the sense that I'm going to commit to anything. I'm not going to commit until I know I can trust. But until I need to commit, or if I don't need to commit, I'm just going to trust, because it doesn't matter if I trust you or not. But it matters, at least not in a way of harm and threat, but it matters in how I treat you. Because if I trust you and give you the benefit of the doubt, and you are a good person, then I have a solid basis for building a relationship, right? It is very, very important. However, if I keep in the back of my mind that you may be a phony, if you turn out to be a phony, well, fine. My not trusting part of that, I trusted, but without trusting, I didn't commit. Fine. I didn't lose anything. I didn't commit to anything. I didn't risk anything. It's not a problem. But if I start off with not trusting, then I can kill any potential positive, wonderful relationships because you can't build a long-term positive relationship out of distrust. Can't happen. See, so trusting without trusting is an incredibly sophisticated mechanism. Yeah. So this is when we say we can trust ourselves, hard to trust others not to hurt us. When we apply trusting without trusting or trusting suspiciously, or in other words, nobelia trusting, we get the sophisticated trust that doesn't get us into trouble via commitment, but also doesn't sabotage potentially good relationships by starting off suspiciously. Yes, inappropriately suspiciously. We don't know, so we need this. Why does Nobelia
Okay.
need diplomacy? It doesn't need it. It's just an assumption that it needs it. Right? I think you're taking this from the word
Okay.
Nobelia diplomacy.
Okay.
And Nobelia
So,
diplomacy, Norma. Oh, go ahead, Beena. Go ahead.
no, I was just asking, why just to be sure of intent or trust. Okay. People
Right,
have to ask for the gift. Okay. So just for the trusting with suspicion. Well, my understanding is that we trust that the intent is good. Okay. Yes.
right,
But good doesn't mean that it is mindful. Good doesn't mean that it is going to be nice also. Good doesn't mean that it is going to be appropriate also,
yeah,
because their appropriateness might be they might not be appropriate even with the good intent. So yes, my intent is good and I want to do something really good for so many people in my life, and but they don't need that. It is actually counterproductive for them. So my intent, they are going to trust that my intent is good, so we will not have any negative connectivity with that person.
correct,
I will still love them, but yes, because their intent
correct,
was good. So there is no
correct.
nothing negative. But I will not allow their their inappropriate
Yeah,
actions
yeah,
or energy or their intents or whatever gestures or words going to affect me negatively or anyone. So this
exactly,
is what
exactly.
trusting without trusting is for me, to
Yeah,
have this trust that the intent is good, so they are not negative. But it doesn't mean that, like children, they are very innocent, they want to make you happy and feel good, and also they are trying to do good. But is it appropriate? No, not necessarily.
correct,
So they don't.
correct.
So that's why it is trusting
Exactly,
without trust, exactly like
exactly,
mothers. When they
exactly.
trust you that okay, yes, your intent is good, but it is not appropriate for you. Like a 2 year
Yeah,
kid driving a car.
yeah,
Okay, that the
yeah,
intent might be very good, that okay, he or she wants to give to bring something for the mother to eat or drink, but it is not appropriate. It is going to put their life in danger and other also. So the mother always trust without trusting. She always knew that okay, oh, yes, I know that okay, it was a good intent, but is it appropriate? No. So I
yeah,
have to be cautious.
yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Um, the two things on this point of, I'll come back to why Nobelia needs diplomacy. It doesn't in the way that that question implies. But I'm going to come back to that in a moment, right, and elaborate on that. I want to continue on this point of, Beena, how can you be sure of intent trust? Trust, you can never, ever, ever, ever be 100% sure. That's why it is trust. The moment you can be sure about it, then it stops being trust and it becomes certainty. Trust inherently means uncertainty of what it is. Yes? You may be 99% sure, or you may be 1% sure. It's just a matter of degree. But if there's trust, it's just a matter of degree, how much uncertainty there is, how much risk there is. Yes. I mean, if I trust when I drive over a bridge that the bridge isn't going to collapse, that's a reasonable trust. There's a high degree of certainty to be accurate. However, what's the news? Every now and then, bridges do collapse. Yes, it happens, right? So you can
Yes.
never
Okay.
be 100% certain, but we have to trust. If I don't trust and I go to every bridge and I'm uncertain, then okay. And again, you can't really tell when those bridges collapse. They weren't rickety and whatever, right? They just collapsed out of the blue. You had no idea, right? So
Yes.
trust is something that we don't have a choice sometimes. And we have to understand this about appropriate trust. And sometimes you just have to be a bit fatalistic. For
No,
instance, when
but
I go
Syl,
outdoors, just to make my point quickly, Beena, when I go outside,
yes.
I have to trust that a meteor is not going to fall on my head or meteorite. Yeah. If it does, well, just too bad. So I have to be a bit fatalistic when it comes to trust. You were going to say?
I was just saying because Norma asked, like, okay, how can you be sure about the trust or intent and having trust in their intent? Because I
Yeah.
choose to.
There you
It
go.
is it is
There
not
you go.
because
There
I
you
choose
go.
to, Norma.
Precisely. Precisely.
Again,
Precisely.
it is on me because it is appropriate and it is impeccable and it is beneficial for me to have that trust. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is why I'm choosing to trust their intent to goodness because it is a lot of energy drain, a lot of negativity, and a lot of
Correct. Correct.
wasteful time, like really where
Yeah.
unnecessary
Yeah.
effort and
Yeah.
all that. It is so appropriate for me. That's why I choose to.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the other person.
Yeah.
It is about me, what I am choosing to create a reality for myself.
Yeah. 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 And that choice is a very big deal here. Now, also,
Exactly.
your trust involves not committing appropriately. Yes, in relationships, we get many people that commit to a relationship inappropriately. Yeah, because they're desperate. They don't want to be alone, so they commit and they get involved because they're desperate not to be alone. Desperation is a disease of futility, to get real sophisticated on it. It's a terrible disease because it gets us to make inappropriate decisions. Precisely, desperateness gets us to trust inappropriately because we commit inappropriately. Right? We don't give time for things to be sorted out, to get figured out, to get worked out, right? And to give space for them to develop. Yes, with employees, for instance, I would say if you're going to have an employee, make the minimum time for them to be on probation, right? Where they just on a trial, 3 months. 3 months is after 3 months, people they can't maintain their pretenses. They can't maintain their externality, which is not true to them, longer than 3 months, right? 3 months they start to get comfortable, and then you see the real self come out. So likewise in relationships, but it may take, of course, longer than that. But at least 3 months, at least, is very important. So we need to give space for things to show their trueness. And it's one of the reasons, if you want to make reasons for not getting married, at least not right away. This is one of the reasons for engagements and for living together. That if you live together, right? Many religious things say you can't, you have to get married. But man, the disaster of that is that you don't really get to see the real person. And here's the problem that, at least from my perspective in this. Now, again, I'm not being definitive here. Hear it in context, right? It's a potential reason that just take it under advisement. Now, what happens in psychology? And watch people like this. Watch, and you probably know from your own experience with not you, Norma, anybody, right? From just observing people with marriage and not being married, right? Now, maybe Beena, you don't have much experience with people living together or not married because it's just frowned upon where you're from, right? However, the point I want to make about this is when people are living together, right, with this understanding that they will get married, yes, where marriage is the goal, they're on their best behavior until they get married. Why? Because I'm serious. This is what happens, right?
Really?
Oh yeah,
Oh.
absolutely, right? Because marriage is a desirable goal, and it's something to achieve, to get.
Oh.
However, once you have it, when that marriage contract is signed, I have it now. So I don't have to be on my best behavior anymore because I've accomplished this. This happens all the time in marriages. The moment the marriage is there, I mean, you can see it in popular culture. You say, oh yeah, now that we're married, he doesn't bring me flowers anymore. Yeah. How often haven't you heard that? Bina, have you heard this or not? Or something similar, right? In other words, he's not as nice to me as when he was courting me. Then he was a perfect gentleman and he was so nice and he did all these wonderful things.
Like
Yeah.
yes,
See? So, because
yes,
this is the
yes,
psychology, when we have it, we
yes.
don't need to make an effort to get it. The effort to get is very different to the effort to have. And when I have it, I don't need to do it. I've got it. And what I need to, that's the mindset. That's the mindset. I don't have to do all the stuff. But when we stay in that situation, yes, where we aren't married, we aren't committed, there's not some contract or bind. In other words, you're free to leave anytime you choose. Likewise, I'm free to leave anytime I choose. Therefore, be on your best behavior always. What a wonderful way to have a relationship. Nothing is ever taken for granted. You always have maximum responsibility and maximum choice, and you're giving the same to the other person. So you're always at your best. Yes? Because you always risk not having this magic that you have in your life. It's an incredible way. All right. I'm just saying, I don't want to be anti marriage. Yes? Because I'm not necessarily anti it. I'm just saying in everything there is positive and potentially negative. Yes. Now, of course, the ideal is to marriage and have the same understanding. Yes. But our psychology just has its own inherentness to it. And we need to understand that, right? So, yes, of course, you can be married and make that commitment to treat it as fresh and new every day. Yes. Because even if you do subscribe to when you're married, you can never get divorced and all this, there's still the possibility of the person leaving you or not being with you, or even if you're still in a marriage, they can leave you in the psychological sense that like you grow apart even though you're technically still married. So there is incentive to maintain this, right? Venus, Beena, Norma said, people have to ask for the gift. I'm not sure in what connection this was. Can you think, Beena, what that may be? People have to ask for the gift in inverted commas.
Okay, maybe
Yes and no
she's
in a
commenting on
way.
the
Y-
opportunity.
Say
No, she
again?
maybe she's commenting on the opportunity that
Uh,
this opportunity is available. So because
well,
this
this was
is
during the
when I
article,
was
when we were
commenting
reading
on
the
that.
article. This is connected to the article in some way.
Okay.
Yeah. That's when we see more opportunities. I'm not sure what you mean to ask here. But Norma, when it comes to gifts just in general, that yes, we do need to ask sometimes, because if we don't ask, we'll never get anything. But sometimes opportunities come of their own accord, right? So it's both. It's both. And again, see, either or thinking. We have to be very careful, Norma, of either or thinking. Yeah. Because it leads to questions like that. Yes. To assume it's one or the other. It's both. It's both. It's both. Yeah. And sometimes it's more than two. It can be three, four, five, 10, 100, whatever. And nobility and art. Yes, absolutely. No, yes, I read that at first, nobelia and art. Yes, nobelia is also an art. Art is predominant in nobelia. Nobelia-Living is an art. You could say, Norma, is gracious living an art? Yes, absolutely. Is kind living? Yes, kindness living, generosity living, consideration living, is it an art? Absolutely, absolutely. And to get back to this, I'll get back to mindfulness now. To get back to why does Nobelia need diplomacy? It doesn't, because the question is again is assuming diplomacy in its regular context. Nobelia diplomacy is taking diplomacy to a whole nother level and application. Nobelia diplomacy is about deep, deep, profound, massive, comprehensive, sophisticated consideration in way beyond what we typically mean by consideration. Look at Biella's answer when it came to that about making people happy. What comments makes someone happy? Yes, she could have given a whole list of comments that make people happy, and the person would have been happy. But it's a band-aid. It's a band-aid. It doesn't help them as an individual. Yes, they have something they can do, but once they run out of using those comments and they get to a situation where those comments aren't appropriate, well, then they're stuck. See? But again, so she looked at the bigger picture and she shared that which would enable the person to make comments that would truly make a person happy. In other words, comments that lead to choice and awareness. Yes? This is a deeper thing. So this is a massively sophisticated answer, but look at the massive consideration there. because she didn't just look at the short term, she looked at the overall life term of the individual. She's considering the bigger picture. That's capital D diplomacy. And to look at this gross consideration, but she said it in a kind and nice and gentle way, right? So diplomacy, at least from a Nobelia point of view, from a new nobility point of view, so Nobelia diplomacy is consideration, and it's also tact and kindness and care. And also, primarily, it is to say the truth in wonderful, nice, pleasant, gentle ways. There are many ways to tell the truth. A lot of people are stuck on this belief that if you tell the truth, it's brutal and harsh and all this nonsense. There's the brutal truth and there's the pleasant truth. You can say things in many different ways. In other words, if I'm describing a house, yeah, and I look at it from the south or the north or the east or the west, what difference does it make? Yes, I'm describing the house. It's just a perspective. Yeah, I'm not distorting the truth about the house. I'm simply describing it in a different
Okay.
way. Yeah. So this is mindfulness of
Yes.
including mindfulness in sharing the truth, mindful of care and grace and
Yes.
kindness and consideration and joy and moreness and larger context. Yes. And I don't know if you said mindfulness as a choice between mindful or training your brain to think positive. Don't you think both, Norma? The question is flawed. You see, when we hear questions like that, our mind automatically goes to choosing between the two. This is what we've been taught to do, to choose between two things that are different. And no, it doesn't make any sense at all. Why not have both? Why not have both, right? Yeah. And more, not just those two. Go ahead, Beena. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because she asked about the capital D diplomacy or Nobelia diplomacy. That why
Yeah.
do they need that? First thing, I personally feel they don't need that. They
Oh,
choose to.
correct. Correct.
There is a difference for that
Yeah.
because it's not a need. They can, of course, be really brutally honest. They can do, of course, but they choose to do that. It
Yeah.
is for me. Capital D diplomacy is exactly like when the surgeon use local anesthesia. They don't
Yeah.
completely knock you down and say, okay, it's all
Yeah.
wonderful, and you when you wake up
Yeah.
and you
Yeah. Yeah.
suddenly realize that okay, it's all like horrible things happen to you. It's just a local anesthesia to avoid that pain, and so then actually you can stay calm, and then they can actually treat you. This is a local anesthesia. It's not a general anesthesia. General anesthesia is actually like really just trying to be nice. This is what general anesthesia is because they
Yeah.
keep everything nice for you,
Yeah.
and then of course when the time passes, and then you realize that okay, oh no, now it's all done. You can't do
Yeah.
anything about it because you were in your la la land at that time,
Yeah.
and they were
Yeah.
keeping it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in Nobelia, the capital D diplomacy works like the local anesthesia, where they actually just numb that like by using and choosing nice, polite vocabulary and tone.
Yes.
And of course, timings. Timing is
Yes.
also very important in diplomacy. It's not like, okay, yes, the truth is there, of course, but they are not beating the drums and marching on the street by telling that. No,
Right.
they
Right.
use the appropriate timing and place for that too. This is what
Yeah. Yeah.
consideration is, capital
Right.
C consideration
Exactly.
for me. And
Exactly.
again, I'm emphasizing, I'm going to emphasize on that. It is not a need, it is a
No, no,
choice.
exactly. And also something to understand about diplomacy. Diplomacy, unfortunately, in our more modern era, has become a bit of a tainted concept. Yes, because we associate diplomats with kind of people who lie and pretend and are phony. Yes, but that's not what diplomacy is. Diplomacy is about being able to speak somebody else's language. Diplomacy is about being able to engage and interact when there are severe differences in such a way that we don't end up fighting. Yes, this was the intent of diplomacy. Now, what is
Yes,
Nobelia diplomacy? Nobelia
yes,
diplomacy is about care and consideration and kindness and grace. We can think of for Norma, yes, another synonym for Nobelia diplomacy, which is regular diplomacy kind of on steroids, you could say, right? Yes, it's taking it to the ultimate moreness, right? This is typically what the new nobility do. They take a concept and they think it through to the end, and they develop multiple perspectives on it. So it becomes richer. It's the same underlying concept, but it's richer when you really get into it fully, right? And apply it fully. And then it becomes the capital D, the capital version of it, right? Whatever the thing is, right? Or the Nobelia version, same thing. Capital D diplomacy, Nobelia diplomacy, same thing. A synonym for capital D diplomacy, not regular diplomacy, capital D diplomacy or Nobelia diplomacy, can be also Jesus diplomacy. How did Jesus interact with everybody? Yes. He never said the truth in a brutal, harsh way. He said it in a kind, gentle, considerate, compassionate way. Always. Wasn't that the hallmark of Jesus? This is what makes Jesus a unique character in literature, right? You're always reading about people who are being strong and tough and conquering and heroes and all this, right? Basically, they conform to the superiority paradigm. And Jesus said, no, he didn't say the word superiority paradigm, but he was about treating everybody the same. Doesn't matter if you're a prostitute or a beggar or a Samaritan or whatever, right? He was about not having hierarchy. He scolded his disciples for being harsh towards the prostitute or the beggar, right? For being superior, in other words. But this is capital diplomacy. He was always nice. He was always kind. He was always considerate. And particularly in matters of truth, where the truth isn't so pleasant, he shared it in ways that is pleasant. Yes, or tried to at least. So Jesus diplomacy, capital D diplomacy, Nobelia diplomacy, is very much the same thing, right? Now, Jesus wasn't trying necessarily to be diplomatic. Sometimes, yes, you can hear it in his language that he is specifically saying something in a way that his disciples, especially when he's talking to his disciples, in a way that his disciples will understand and get it. Yeah, and likewise with the parables. The parables is capital D diplomacy. Yeah, because he's saying it in a nice way that is considerate to the listener, where they can get it, they can understand it, right? Where if he just said it directly, they wouldn't get it, or they might even see it as a negative, as a criticism. See? So he's taking them, the people he's speaking to, who he's sharing with, he's taking their mindset, their attitudes, their beliefs, their ways of being into consideration and adapting accordingly. See? Nobelia diplomacy, same thing. Yeah. It's consideration, it's care, kindness, grace, graciousness. Yeah. Make sense, Norma? Does that help? Beena, does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. It's a big deal, in other words. It's not a simple thing, this. It's not a simple thing. And Nobelia diplomacy, in other words, is very different to regular diplomacy. Yeah. One moment. I'm keep refreshing so I don't miss Norma's comments, but every time I refresh, then the sound comes and I have to put it off again. And it takes just a little while to put off sometimes. I can't always click immediately. This is a big deal. Now, to go a little further, right, when it comes to diplomacy and Nobelia diplomacy, there's a moreness to the story. In the agglomeration, right, which is this whole uh, unity, right, of planets all together into a single unit of administration, political unit, right? The agglomeration. Of course, within the agglomeration, you've got wildly diverse planets. And like in the case of the delegates, they are from planets that are not yet in the agglomeration. That because they've just been discovered, and it's a long story. But anyway, so as a result, there is a great need for kind of normal, regular political diplomacy. Yes. And also the diplomacy of being arbiters and what do you call it when somebody is a neutral party and you're looking to to settle a dispute? An arbiter, but there's another word for it, right? Anyway, so there's a great need for people that are very skilled in diplomacy. But the problem with diplomats is, and when you have like negotiators or somebody who is a neutral party, right, and who is there to settle a dispute, right? Like the courts will put it up. They'll say send it to arbitration, but there's another word for it now. So it's eluding. Anyway, there's a great need for this in the world, our world, but of course in the agglomeration also. And the problem with that is that you need to really, really not only trust that your arbiter is going to be honest and fair, but also have integrity and not And a true, real good arbiter is not going to let their personal opinions influence things. Yes. And so, in other words, it takes a lot of skill of being to be a truly good arbiter and a true diplomat, right? And you need to have, when you negotiating, for instance, with an alien species, you have to have the ability, the sophistication to think a bigger picture, to be able to see layers, to be able to perspective shift so that you can understand things, to truly, truly be able to massively perspective shift, like really radically, so that you can see things from the alien's perspective. Otherwise, there's no communication. So, as a result of who the new nobility are, because they are so sophisticated, they've had centuries where the entire culture is geared towards this moreness of being, right? To be that sophisticated, to be that aware, to be that insightful, to have the profound ability to be able to perspective shift to multiple perspectives and do so instantly, immediately, to have this as a skill, an innate, deep, profound creative skill, as an art even. All of the qualities which make up the new nobility and what they strive for and what it means to be a new noble. And when you are a new noble, you've acquired some of these, at least to have a level of competence in them. These make them fantastic diplomats. So as a result, in the agglomeration, right from the very beginning, there's a story about this in the book. Right from the very beginning, the new nobility became the default and de facto diplomatic core of the agglomeration. Now, of course, you can hire any diplomat if you're a company or a planet, but the new nobility, because they have such a profound reputation for integrity and honesty and sophistication and sobriety, etc., 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 there's really no competition. So they hire themselves out via the new nobility corporation. They hire themselves out as diplomats and arbiters and negotiators, peacemakers, etc. Right? So the Nobelia diplomacy is is kind of different to the regular diplomacy, but of course they use Nobelia diplomacy when they are engaged in regular diplomatic things. Because when you take regular diplomacy and you take it to the to its extremes, right, and you really take it to the max, you end up with being a really, really, really good diplomat, right? And so they're very powerful. So diplomacy has more to it than just this kindness and caring and consideration and grace when it comes to personal interactivity. Yes, when you apply it on that scale, in terms of negotiation and arbitration and regular diplomacy, peace treaties and stuff like that, it takes on a different significance. And as such, the new nobility have a very particular place in the agglomeration because they're not only seen as these magical or marvelous or excellent arbiters and diplomats and judges even sometimes, but also in their personal sense, they looked up to a bit because, well, if I had the motivation, the time, the energy, I too could be that. They represent our moreness as an individual. Okay, my interest went into engineering or doctoring or something. That's great. Yes, I don't have because I'm focused on being a doctor or an engineer or a fan, whatever you're doing, doesn't matter. My sport, whatever, my hobby, stamp collecting, doesn't matter. Whatever you focused in, it took your interest and that was it. So you didn't have the energy for other stuff. Well, it happens to be that the interest of those that end up on Nobelia is in personal development and growth. It's not better or worse. It just is. We need everybody with interest in everything. But as such, that they play a role as exemplars of what we could be if we all put the time and energy into what they did. Yes. And so they have a very particular role in the agglomeration, very unique role, very wonderful role, right? And of course, there's no ego, there's no hierarchy, there's no superiority. And if anybody says, "Oh, you better," they'll quickly tell you, "Nope, nope, 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 nope. Get out that, get rid of this stuff, please, please, please. No, 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 no." Oh, I said nicely though. Right? It's a big deal. In other words, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah. I thought you were a farm worker. You asked me before on Stephanie. Stephanie's just a friend I met on Facebook or via Facebook, being Norma. That's all. And just a friend that I haven't spoken to for a long, long time. Yeah. And, we got to meet and she shared and she came on Zoom and shared her story. it was a time she needed that, and I was there. I was there. So, life changes. That's it. That's all. So there's some stories, like in Clara's class. I wrote her into the story because she shared her story. She becomes Eska because at that time Stephanie's initials were SK. See, so SK made into a name becomes Eska. Yeah, ESKA. I like doing that. I like doing that. Yeah, it's like Norma. You'd be NB, ENBIE. See, NB, NB, NB. Yeah. Or Beena, you can, instead of expanding it, you can contract it. Beena becomes Bena. B apostrophe and A. See? The apostrophe takes out the E's. But when you say it as Bena, it's a different name and it has an exotic alienness to it from different galaxies, science fictionified, right? Bena. Yeah. 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 No. So Bena would likely mean, typically when you have that apostrophes, like the Angelo, it means of Angelo, of the clan of Angelo, right? So belonging to Angelo, of the family of Angelo, etc., etc. That's typically what those names are when they have the apostrophes. That's what that means, right? Um, and so Bana would be of Na, but maybe Na doesn't mean a family, right? Maybe when she was given the name or chose the name for herself, because not necessarily was she given it. Some cultures would say, no, you get to choose your own name when you're 16 or 21 or whatever age they decide is an appropriate age, right? Or just not even an age, just when you have enough sense to do this and to know that when you do choose your name as in your legal name, it's a fairly serious commitment. Now, of course, you can change your legal name, but there's complications to it. So don't make this decision lightly. So let's assume that Beena chose this name for herself, right? Na could mean like a synonym for moreness. So of moreness. Yeah. Huh? Because I know in some languages they say na, like you say yeah, yeah, right, Beena? Some subcontinent languages,
Yes.
nah, right? It's like a comment, nah, right? Yeah, anyway. So this is
Now means no, no.
yeah, but I've heard it where it's not used as no. And sometimes it
Like
means
the
no,
of
but
course
sometimes
it's
it's
an
used as
expression
like
also.
an affirmative agreement, like saying okay, nah, you're saying la 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 la,
Yes, yes, yes,
you see, and it's like saying yes or okay.
yes.
It's an affirmative agreement, yes, and
Yes.
then by extension, this could
Yes.
also mean like you are looking for moreness. You see, now again, let's take these are really advanced,
Yes.
sophisticated cultures. Over time, words change, right? And so now came to mean moreness because of this in a culture that likes moreness. Now meant is there more? See, so Bana could mean of moreness, connected to moreness, from normus, moreness, you see? Yeah.
Yes.
I said
Yes.
no, normus, like normanus, moreness, normanus,
Yes.
same thing, same thing. All right. That's just too wonderful. I'm really enjoying our chat and our conversation. See, Veena and Norma, I keep calling you anyway. Veena, Norma, Nomina, or let's see. Well, Bona. Bo Combine your names. Make a big mess of it. Anyway, Norma, when you share and you comment, when you join, when we have conversations like this, it's wonderful. It's absolutely brilliant and awesome and wonderful. It adds so much. This is something that really, 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 really pains me when when simple good people think they have nothing to contribute. It is such a ridiculous, absurd myth. It's complete nonsense. You might be simple and plain and know nothing, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you cannot contribute. Questions always contribute. Sharing always contributes. Doesn't matter what. You share how you understand it. Always contributes. Always. This whole nonsense of I'm simple, I'm plain, I'm ordinary, I'm going to contribute. It's just this is what narcissists push because they don't have anything to contribute because they're hollow. Yeah. So they push this. They push this idea. It's BS. It's BS. Absolute nonsense. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. Don't fall for it. Most of the things that we take as our culture, And we just take for granted, like this idea that, well, I'm nobody, therefore I've got nothing to contribute. Where does it come from? Comes from narcissists. Narcissists have determined our culture for the most part. It's quite disastrous and horrible. Yeah, quite disastrous and horrible. All right. Beena, do you feel like reading more story, or do you have to go sleep, or are you staying up? What's happening?
Just it is already very late, and we
I
are
know, but I'm
also
not sure because of
cross our
Ramadan that you staying up later or not.
yes, but we also cross our usual time. It
Doesn't
doesn't have
matter.
to be, but
Doesn't matter.
yes,
Doesn't matter. We can do more. We can do more. I mean, I'm happy to read another article here if you want to. I don't care going long. We can go as long as we like. We're not limited by time. I
okay.
mean,
So
what?
just want to read one more.
Okay, one
I
more.
will not go for the capital R reading for that, but I just want to read more.
Okay, okay, one more then. One more. Do you
Yes.
want to read it or do you want me to read it?
Okay, I will read.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Conscious assumption. This is the one?
No, no,
Or
no, no,
no?
no. Wait for
Okay.
it to load.
Assumed. Assumed
There's
perspective.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Assumed perspectives. Are there any expert opinions or perspectives on the use of assumptions in building knowledge? Oh,
Oh,
that's such a
what a fabulous question. What a fabulous question. Norma asked me questions like this, by the way. Yeah.
good.
Norma asked me some
Okay.
fabulous questions. Norma, by the way, some of the questions that you asked me are going to be in this book. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Dear
Anonymously, of
Syl,
course, it
yes. Okay.
doesn't reveal anything about you, you know. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Dear Seong Wook, if I'm pronouncing it right, to answer your question, I have to assume a bit.
Look at mine.
Otherwise,
The smiley face. You have to read the smiley face there, right?
yes.
Yeah, this
Otherwise,
is Biella, right? So Biella, when she says that, there's going to be that little bit of teasy cheekiness smile, right? Fun in there, right? Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the answer would simply be yes. I assume you are interested in perspectives regarding the use of assumption. Usually, attitudes towards assumptions are somewhat negative.
Right, right. Let's just go
Like
back a
it's
little
not
bit
a
here,
good.
right, Abina?
Okay.
Because look, if you take this literally, are there any expert opinions or perspectives on the use of whatever? Right? Yeah, of course, they expert opinions. So she could answer it yes, just say yes, yes they are. End of story. But if she answers the question literally, she's not answering the question. Yes,
Yes.
yeah. Capital D diplomacy, Nobelia diplomacy in action here, right? I mean,
Yes.
it'd be very unlikely if the person is truly querying if they are expert opinions, because there's expert opinions on everything pretty much, yes? Now, it's possible that they may be ignorant of whether or not these actually exist, and they could be asking so that they could go research it, right? It could legitimately be that, but it's very unlikely, yeah? So Biella covers both here, yes? Sophistication, by saying the answer would simply be yes. If that's what they were asking to simply know if they actually exist, then the person doesn't need to read further. Yeah. See? Interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Would you like some tea or coffee, Norma? Beena?
Yes.
All right. Which one?
You were asking Norma. So wait for
Asking
her.
you too, both. Beena and Norma.
No, no, I don't. I right now I don't want to.
Okay.
No,
Okay. Okay.
just
I'll
right
make
now.
some for Norma. Although
Yes.
Norma's also no, it's still too early for Norma to go to bed. Okay. All right, Norma, I'll make you some tea. You English, so tea is a default if I have to choose. Yeah. All right. Keep going, please, Beena. Keep going.
Usually, attitude towards assumptions are somewhat negative. Like it's not a good thing to assume. Assumption is typically connected to arrogance and ego. But really, we have to be careful. That only applies to inappropriate assumptions, where we
Hmm.
believe or act on some idea or belief without any valid or substantiated reason for doing so. And even worse, The problem really becomes a problem when we take our assumptions to be fact. This causes all sort of problems, especially if we are not even aware that what we think is a fact is as a fact. Sorry, it is written here, so it's a typo. We
I'll come
think
fix it in
as
a
a
moment.
fact, yeah. We think as a fact is actually an assumption.
Keep going.
Last line. Last line. Yes. Okay.
What we think is, where was it? I'll find it. You keep going. I'll find it.
Okay. I was saying that, okay, we think as a fact is actually an assumption.
Especially if we are not
But
even aware that what we think is a fact is actually an assumption. No, it's correct.
okay. Conscious assumption. An assumption is simply taking something as true. This is not a problem in,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
it's scrolling. This is not a problem in itself, but only if we do so without being aware that we are doing so. The trick with assumption is to use them consciously and knowingly, fully aware that we are doing so. Because
Hmm.
really, when we think things through to the end, well, but it's not there, think things through, we come to see that assumptions are pretty much unavoidable. For instance, we have to assume that when we walk down a street, the other people on the street aren't going to just attack us. However, of course, this depends on which street, when, and under what conditions. If it's a back alley of a bad neighborhood at night, then the opposite assumption is a good one. Yes.
Oh.
Embracing uncertainty. When it comes to knowledge building, it's a useful habit to treat all our knowledge as an assumption. That
Hmm.
way, we remain open to further learning and understanding. If we
Hmm.
think back to our early childhood and remember what we believed to be true and to be fact, but which later turned out not to be so, we see
Yeah.
how, as children, we assumed our knowing or knowledge to be true and real, in fact, but it wasn't. Likewise, if we look back from the future to ourself, self of now, we will likewise see that we hold some beliefs and ideas which will turn out not to be so, that we are treating some of our beliefs and ideas as fact when they really are assumptions. But you might object, what to do? We have to live with some kind of facts. Yes, we do. The key understanding and perspective is to be fully aware that we are, in fact, almost always assuming. If we treat
Yes.
all, if we treat all of our knowledge as an assumption, we actually make our lives easier and more fluid, more
Hmm.
open, more able to adapt and flow as appropriate. Believing without believing. This brings us to a sophisticated strategy of living, believing without believing, which simply
Yeah.
means we treat things as if they are true, while keeping in
Yeah.
mind all the
Yeah.
times that they might not be so. This allows us to set our behavior and
Oh, 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 oh. Scroll and scroll and scroll. Then I would have said, wait, I didn't write that. I didn't write that. And where were we?
yes, and actions in such a way that if things turn out to be true, we are okay, and if they don't, we are still okay. For instance, say we enter into a business deal. We are not sure if we can trust the other party, so we go into the deal and take out insurance. Either way, we are okay. Similarly, we can structure our lives in ways that do not commit us unless we either have no choice or there is an extremely low risk,
Mm.
or we are willing to assume the risk there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
powerful. Okay.
Yeah. Read it again. It's very powerful, that.
Oh, then you scrolled it. Okay, okay.
Oh, no,
Okay.
still at the top, that last paragraph.
Okay. Yeah. For instance, say we enter into a business deal. We are not sure if we can trust the other party. So we go into the deal and take out insurance. Either way, we are okay. Similarly, we can structure our lives in ways that do not commit us unless we either have no choice or there is an extremely low risk, or we are willing to assume the risk there is.
Yeah. Those are our choices. Those are our choices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hup.
Deliberate living. When we live this way, we are more deliberate in our actions, and as a plus, we are more
Yeah. Deliberate
conscious
living,
of
not
taking
deliberately
responsibility.
living. The difference. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Deliberate in our actions, as a plus, we are more conscious of taking responsibility for our actions. Always a bonus. This not only makes us more diligent and scrupulous when it comes to our actions, but it reduces complaining by us. We thus become more in charge not only of our actions and behaviors, but also of our knowledge. What we believe, especially what we believe to be true, is a precious, vital part of what we are, who we are. If we are careless in building ourselves like a poorly built house, we will not be very stable at all. However, when it comes to the self fluidity, like the river is the most stable, a river that stops flowing soon becomes stagnant, or if there is no flow to a river, it dries up and dies. Leverage assumptions. Staying open to new learning and especially remaining open to changes in our existing knowledge is absolutely necessary. If we are to stay alive as growing up and flowing people, huh? Okay, to stay alive as growing and flowing people. Okay, here it said we use assumptions sophisticated. We assume everything to be an assumption and use that life position in a strategic manner. At first, it may seem like we are making our lives more complicated, but actually, it's the opposite. We become less naive, less one sided, less dogmatic, less arrogant, less locked in. We become more fluid, more flexible, more open, not only to ideas and understandings, but this broader perspectives makes us more okay, available to opportunities and creativity and alternative perspectives, and that all opens up to the more of life. We achieve all of this marvelousness because we use assumption.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. Do I need to scroll?
I'm just checking where it is.
I didn't
Uh,
scroll. There we go.
but okay, yeah, but okay. So now, okay, it's very good. Okay, where we were, more fluid understanding, more to the more of life. Where we are, okay, makes us more available to opportunity and creativity and alternative perspective, and that all opens up to the more of life. We achieve all of this marvelousness because we use assumption. We
Hmm.
leverage assumption to make it work for us instead of being a liability. We do this by using assumption appropriately, which is a marvelous strategy, one we can apply to everything we do. Biella. Yes, assumptions, I believe, are great tools and can be awesome vehicles of navigation. Assumptions have gotten such a bad reputation. However, they can and do enable the timid to engage where they might otherwise be totally stumped. Assumptions used deliberately and actively deployed from many different vantage points could yield marvelous insights. These insights can then be pitted against each other. Leveraging even deeper insights, one could then follow these deeper insights and perhaps distill them into concepts, fractals, and more.
Explain that last to me, please, Beena. And before, I lost a bit of it, so just
No,
paraphrase
no,
me, please.
yes, okay, yes, but I will do this tomorrow. I said, okay, I will not be available
All
for the
right, all
physical
right.
reading. Yes.
Okay, 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 okay. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And just Erica Jane responding, which is great.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay,
Okay.
Norma, thank you so much. But I'm going now. I'm leaving. And
Yeah. One thing before you
yes,
go, quickly, Beena, quickly.
yes.
I want to make a point in the subtitle
Mm-hmm.
and in the introduction to talk about the fact that what Biella shares is uh, uh, is another way to understand what Nobelia living is. Yes,
Yes,
she's applying awareness, discernment, and understanding. Correct. And capital
yes,
diplomacy and care and consideration and moreness and perspective shifting and thinking things through to the end. The ongoing theme here is a sophisticated discernment, right?
yes,
So I want to put this like in the subtitle, maybe sophisticated discernments shared by Biella or something like that, right? So that you can have this frame of perception that you're coming into this marvelous sharing of moreness, unexpected, different, right? Because every time our answer is a bit more than what you would expect, correct? Or a lot more than you would typically
yes,
expect to get from those questions like that. Right. So this is very, 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 very key. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. Just so remind me, Beena, that when we go over this, that to write that and share, you can maybe help me there, but just throw out ideas and bounce them back at me. It'd be very helpful. But just to keep this in mind, right? I want to bring this into the forward. Maybe when I feel motivated, I'll write it. I don't feel like right now. I don't have the energy for it, but uh,
okay,
maybe. Yeah, yeah. It's important, don't you think? It's important to make this connection that between Nobelia living and what Biella is doing here, right? Because the same
yes,
intent is here with these articles. I had the same intent as with the book, the intent to show this underlying moreness of being, which is Nobelia living, correct? You're seeing the
yes,
demonstrations of it here. Yeah. You're
yes,
getting to see Biella's character and who she is and how she is. You're discovering Biella's moreness through this, correct?
yes,
And that's very important. I mean, saying this is the intent of these articles. It was definitely
yes,
on my mind, not only to answer the questions in this moreness way, but to bring moreness of perspective, to go way beyond assumptions and expectations, and to bring ideas, conceptions, ways of thinking, ways of being, ways of living into being, into the understanding and into the space of whoever's reading this that were not there before. This is very key part of this, right? And it's a great gift. She doesn't have to do this. She could answer the questions more simply, but her nobility gets her to share that more, that extra. Correct? When you look at
yes,
all of these, there's always that extra. We look at this PS even here, right? She comes, it's like she's still on her mind, yeah, to share moreness, to over and above what's needed. This is nobility, correct?
yes,
Yeah. So it's something that I'm sorry to keep you out of bed, Beena. I know you are, but this is very important, and I'm glad we continued because I might not have come to this otherwise. Uh, right? To share this, it's there in the introduction or the foreword or whatever to the first book of the Biella series, and it will be in every book, but it's not here necessarily, and it needs to be. It needs to be that this is a way to know what Nobelia living is via coming to know Biella. And Biella is a representation, an ideal, excellent representation of Nobelia living. Yes. So understanding Biella is also understanding Nobelia living. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Sorry to keep you up, Ina. Thank you very much. Thank you
No
very much. And
problem. No
and on
problem.
that note,
Yes.
we will end the live. And I appreciate your reading. It was a great gift and a great joy, and it helps me tremendously, Bina. It really helps me tremendously to hear it. And I'm assuming you enjoy the article, this one as well. I know I asked you on the other
Oh,
two.
yes. Yes.
Okay, good, good.
Yes. All of
I'm
that.
asking very deliberately because I have no idea, and I don't want to assume you enjoy it and find value in it. So that's why I ask, because it is important to me to know, because I'm going to publish this. If I don't know at least one person finds them valuable, then why would I bother to publish, right? Just be no need for it. Yeah? So okay.
Yes.
It's just my
Okay, sir.
humility, I guess. All right, all
Yes.
right, all right. Bye bye, bye
Yes.
bye, Beena. Bye bye, bye bye.
Bye.
Let me see if there's a comment
Bye
that.
bye, Dorma. Bye for now.
Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. Uh, okay, let me end the live here. Let me end the live here. And meeting.